Today on Chris Dyer's Creative Friends.
People don't feel comfortable, man. People are hurting. And doing ayahuasca, I learned as I'm sitting right here, all that kind of shit, you can just move your chair right there and not sit here no more and don't sit in your own shit. Step out of the feces, man. And just, I felt like my liberation was that easy. I felt like I was just in all this shit and I just like tiptoed out of it. And I was like, oh, I can just leave all that shit behind.
Yeah.
Like really, I could have did that so long ago. And now that I realize the power of my influence, I want to use it for good, or I want to just leave everybody alone. I'll go stay in the Everglades the rest of my life and leave everybody alone and not woo anybody in any direction. But I want everybody to think for themselves, man. A lot of people ask me, oh man, should I do this? Asking me about this, kind of pretending to maybe it can work for them. I don't like to woo anybody in any way, but I do like to woo people to find whatever it is that you're looking for. I can tell you what worked for me, but what works for me ain't necessarily for everybody.
Ahora sí. Salud.
Salud.
Thank
Here's
you.
to this
Yeah.
moment.
Brought to you by Corona.
Live from St. Petersburg, Florida.
Gave us 2 Coronas to enjoy in the sun.
Man, I'm feeling blessed.
Yeah, man. How you feeling out here? You've been in Florida for a couple months now?
Yeah, I came down here to, first of all, see my mother, and it coincides with the holidays in Art Basel.
Yeah.
So it just makes sense. And then I'm a snowbird, so to get away from Atlanta as much as the winter as I can always is good for me.
Yeah, totally. And you get to work out here or is more vacation?
I guess it's both. Work's always just fun for me in general, but to make work outside of my cold studio and not have access to the outdoors, because I use a lot of spray paint.
Yeah.
So I like to go to my mother's house and set up a studio. She lives over there by the swamps in the Everglades, and the life force in nature's heavy there, just the sounds alone. But for me, it's just like a perfect paradise studio.
Super cool. And you're working on canvases or murals?
Yeah, I've been working on a bunch of, I'm doing a show. I have a show coming up, ABV. It's May 3rd. I'm not sure if I'm even supposed to be talking about it yet because I haven't announced it, but whatever.
Oh, this will come in like a few weeks out, so you got time.
Well, May 3rd, I have a show at ABV, which is a gallery in Atlanta owned by Greg Mike.
Okay.
And it used to be a small gallery, and he got it really popping, and he bought a whole church, and he gutted it out and made it like a contemporary art center, more so than even a gallery. But I'm having a solo show there, and I had to make 54 pieces to fill it. And I just decided to do all of it in the Everglades. We pondered the show in 2022, so I went to my mom's and just started making it after Art Basel because I felt like I didn't have time. And then, of course, the construction of the church got postponed. They ran into Mad City permit. Anyway, it got postponed. And I kind of just put the show off from 2022. And then I made the show this year, 2024. I finished the show. So it's been kind of in the making for a couple years. And I figured since I started it there, I would finish it there. And I got to spend time with my parents, which I was yearning for some family time. I was yearning for it all year. I really missed my mom bad this year.
Wow, that's very nice of you.
Like hurtfully bad, I missed her. So I needed this time to catch up with her. It felt like my soul was needing it.
Yeah, and you enjoy your time in Florida. That's chill with you.
Yeah, man, hanging with them. And they also helped me a lot. So my mom even signed the back of some pieces because she was filling in some of the paper pieces I was doing.
Oh, cool.
And but I worked on canvas and I worked on Bristol, and I have enough pieces to fill the show up. And now it's time to figure out all the other angles of it, the gift shop and merchandise. So I've been overwhelmed.
Okay. Well, but it sounds like
but
you're
I handled
having
it.
fun.
I handled it, and I'm halfway done with it.
Cool. Are you excited? Is this the first time you worked with Greg Mike on a project? Or?
I've been working with Greg Mike in that gallery. They're also an agency, so they've just been, putting me on a lot of stuff for a long time, and they have group shows almost every month. So it's been a nice way to not have the pressure of making a whole show, just making one piece a month. I like doing group shows because you just make one piece and send it out, and it's not a lot of pressure, and it can be good.
Yeah. And he runs the Atlanta Walls Festival, something like that?
Oh, he runs Outer Space Project.
Okay.
And he started that gallery in Atlanta at a time where, the type of art we do, street art, graffiti, just really hadn't caught on in Atlanta, not even close.
What year's this?
I'd say throughout the past, since like 2012, 13, it really wasn't a market for that in Atlanta as far as galleries go. And I thought it was strange he was even opening it. And I said something about it, but he proved me wrong. He paved a lane for a lot of artists, not just graffiti and street artists either, just new up and coming artists, people with lots of potential, people who were already established. But he really carved a nice niche for everybody in Atlanta, and
Yeah.
now he's got this gallery that's unbelievably big. It's like the size of a football field, and
Wow.
I'm doing my solo show there.
Cool.
And it's just,
So
I've
you
never
got
done a solo show this big.
okay.
So
Are you doing big pieces, right?
yeah, I'm doing every size. I'm doing all the way from, I don't know if I should say too much. I'm doing a bunch of small ones, and then I'm doing some medium ones, and it gets kind of bigger and bigger.
Uh-huh.
And I'm not gonna say too much about the layout or anything like that, but it's a lot of pieces.
Nice. Well,
And that's
sounds
all I've
exciting.
been doing since I left Art Basel on December 13th or something. I went, and I've been working on this show every day, and I still got a lot of like add-ons and touch-ups, but the paintings are like 98% done.
Cool.
I wanted to finish the show here. I wanted the story of the show. I wanted the paintings to be done here because making them in particular places, they come out a certain way. And I just wanted this collection to have a rhythm of it. I didn't want it to be, we travel around and work on pieces from place to place. I wanted the whole show to be made and it's where I'm from.
Yeah.
It's like my natural habitat. I spent from a baby to 9 years old in this part of Florida before I moved to Atlanta. And I never looked back, and coming back and reuniting with my mother, I didn't see her for a long time, and then I reunited with her, and then to come back with art and be making this show and where I came from, and it's such a familiar climate, the smells,
full
the sounds. It's very, I was almost kind of shameful of being from Florida. It would be embarrassing. People would be like, you're not from Atlanta, you're from the swamp, you know? And I'd be like, oh, they know I'm from the swamp, you know?
What's so wrong about Florida that everybody from stink at it?
And I love this whole state. I'll go ahead and just say that on camera too. I travel extensively since I've reunited with this place and stopped shaming myself from being from it, and then kind of like, this place is like being in Africa in some ways.
It's dope.
It
it's
is
so much nature, and there's a lot of just laid back people. There's a lot of everything too, but like I hang out with the people I resonate with and not with the people I don't.
I say it's hard to leave.
I love living here.
I've been here for 3 months. I don't live here, man. I don't want to go home. The only reason I'm going home is because I have to. I've got to that point where I got to get my ass back home.
Well, you're always welcome to come and crash here if you ever need like you know, I guess.
I'll just come by here every year on the way home.
Yeah, it sounds good to me. Tell me about Atlanta. I've never been to Atlanta. I've never met, you know, that mural scene or Greg Mike, or I've heard about it a lot, and it's not far away, but I've never really had any vibes or situations up there. So what is the vibe?
Atlanta's like, if you talk about now, it's kind of like, it's like, you know, I guess history repeats itself. You know, Atlanta was like burned down. Atlanta built on top of another Atlanta. Atlanta's kind of like and the Phoenix is our thing, like rising from the ashes and stuff. And Atlanta just like, it's just kind of like keeps building on top of itself, and it's ever changing. And like the Atlanta everybody knows, from like Freaknik to music culture and style, you know, it's like kind of a ground zero center of the world for culture and fashion now or whatever. And that, what you know of Atlanta now really started in the mid 80s with the rise of hip hop and stuff. And then Atlanta morphed its own kind of style of hip hop. And they say hip hop is born in New York, but it lives in Atlanta. And but even since that era, since the early 2000s, Atlanta has, I guess, you know, of course, gentrification, everybody knows every city's gentrified, but even beyond that, they've torn down so much of Atlanta and rebuilt it in my time, and have now torn that down. I've seen like 3 stadiums now, you know, where in my childhood, like I would go to Cleveland and that stadium was like, I don't know, 150 years old. In New York, you go to the Yankee Stadium and all that stuff's kind of disappearing now. And it was always interesting to me that things had kind of seemed like they had just been around forever. And now all that stuff doesn't count. And Atlanta's been a place that strips its history, but it's also reemerging to where they have like new Atlanta, old Atlanta. And I don't prescribe to that. I'm just kind of like, I was part of old Atlanta, and I'm also going to be new Atlanta. And the new Atlanta, I'm adapting to it. You know, I miss a lot of the things, and a lot of people are grumpy about this and that, but everything has a shelf life. And I'm just, I'm enjoying being this age in new Atlanta, and I'm glad that I was very young in old Atlanta. So I'm old in new Atlanta and young in old Atlanta. The timing was good.
Things change, you got to surrender to it, and hopefully you contribute to the news to come, hopefully better. Well, you know, that's, I guess, decided by each person, but yeah, do you try not to get bummed out by the
I don't even
change?
think about it, because the one thing I know that's undeniable about Atlanta, and I noticed it when I got there, was creativity, very strong creativity. Some of it can be used for negativity, I also understand that, but there's one thing that's undeniable, that, man, kids who grow up in Atlanta, there's something that gets in their ass and in their DNA to be hyper creative, whether it be with music, business, lifestyles, fashion, whatever. A very unique place. I think Harlem has that too, you know, and there's places in the world that breed very important levels of and high levels of creativity, and Atlanta is mesmerizing for that. I was kind of like a brain dead vegetable type child. I wasn't into sports or anything. I liked Matchbox cars was like my only toy I would get into. They thought something was wrong with me. And I got to Atlanta and I saw graffiti and I rode the train. I seen people's clothes. I mean, everything, my brain turned on that day in 1984 when I visited Atlanta, and I came back to Florida and I didn't want to be in Florida no more.
Yeah.
This place didn't have any of that, and nature didn't matter to me. I was wanting to be immersed in the city life.
Nice.
And I got to go a year later and I just immediately became a city boy.
Nice. Tell me your story coming up in graffiti. So this is what, 84 you said, or?
Well, 84, I visited my father and my brother in Atlanta, and I saw graffiti for the first time, and I'm talking about my brain turned into like a grown man, full, smart, intelligent brain turned on that day. And I just had a clear focus that I wanted to know what that was, and I wanted in. I knew I was like, I want in on that.
Yeah.
And I got to move to Atlanta a year later in 85, and my dad was pretty lenient as far as letting me be very young and just roam freely.
You're what age then?
I'm 9 years old. And
9 years old?
Yeah, and I had an older brother, so he was, I guess he was like 12, but he already knew how to ride the trains and the buses and have the schedules and get MARTA cards, you know, the card from the school. And it was like having a car at 9 years old. That the trains, it's not like New York, but you can go beyond north and south, east and west, and buses go beyond all that. So my access to all of Atlanta and beyond was just there. I had a MARTA card. And then graffiti out the windows was where it was existing.
Where did you live at 9 years old by yourself in Atlanta?
I didn't live by myself. I lived with my dad, but we lived.
Okay, your dad lived there.
Yeah, and he lived right in Midtown.
Okay,
So
nice.
I could walk to the MARTA station. I had access to just walking or skateboarding right to the station. And having that access and that kind of like, you know, my dad's Polish and my mother's Greek, but they're from Macedonia. But they were just kind of like, y'all get outside. They weren't trying to shelter us on any level.
Yeah, old school
They would think
style.
something's wrong with you if you didn't want to be out there with your friends. And
Right.
I would just, if I didn't have to go home, I wouldn't. If my
Right.
dad would allow me, he allowed me to go. I told him I didn't want to go to my grandma's and my mom's when I was like 14. He goes, what do you want to do? I said, I would like to just travel on my own. He was like, you can do whatever you want, but you can't be here. And I was like, fuck it, I'm going to Detroit, you know?
Yeah.
So I started just getting on Greyhound, and I've always been allowed to roam freely, and it's been good for me. If I ever have kids, I'll be like, don't ask me shit, figure it out.
And you never got in trouble or?
I got in lots of trouble, you know? I mean, I was in the mental hospital. I mean, I learned a lot of weird lessons at a young age.
What age was that, mental hospital?
I went to mental hospital when I was 12 and got out when I was 13.
Wow, why?
Because, I mean, I guess I was a bad kid. I didn't play sports. I wasn't good at school, but I definitely had a sharp-ass brain, and I was slick. I came from South Florida, and even though it's swamp, but, you know, my stepfather, he's a Puerto Rican man, and my mother, they're very slick, survivalist-type people. And I had picked up on a lot of stuff that was very advanced. I didn't realize when I got to Atlanta, I was impressive to the kids in the streets and street culture.
Yeah.
And I fell right into place with it. And I felt like you know, I was allowed in all the neighborhoods that people wouldn't mix. I would always be welcome everywhere because I came in, I wasn't black, and I had enough street about me or an edge about me that everybody thought I was as cool as hell, and that leads into meeting like the Dungeon family and stuff. You know, everybody would just be like, "Who the fuck are you, man?
Yeah.
How old are you?"
What is
I'd be like, none of your fucking business. And they'd be like, "This is a crazy little kid," and I'd be like, "Yeah." They'd be like, "You got to be in our video," and I'd be like, "No, I'm good."
What is the Dungeon family?
The Dungeon family is a conglomerate of creatives that, for a lack of better like a comparison, I imagine it to be creative on a visual side in Atlanta would be to be like gay in the 50s, and you stay in the closet, you know, and bad comparison in some ways, but when you're creative and you found some other creative people, it'd be like, hey, we'll just keep this amongst ourselves. Like, that shit ain't gonna go at school. And
so it's like painters or rappers or?
Well, yeah, I met Cujo Goody and Gip from the Goody Mob, and then I ended up meeting CeeLo and Timo, and then like Sleepy Brown I met separately. I kept becoming friends with guys in different reasons, in different places, and I remember when Sleepy was like, yeah, man, Dungeon family. I was like, what the fuck is that, man? I was like, people keep saying they're in the Dungeon family. And he was like, who you met in the Dungeon family? I was like, well, I met this guy that said he's Dungeon. He's like, yeah, that's my brother. And I'd be like, man, I keep meeting these cool ass dudes who look street, but when you get past that surface, they were hyper creative, and it was just like this secret amongst ourselves. And they would always really dig that I was unique, and that was also frowned upon, to not wear like Jordans or have like Jordache jeans or a starter jacket, you were lame. And then it was like you could either be that or you could be a punk rocker. But I'd be like, what about just being myself, you know?
Yeah.
And then I had enough toughness to be like, if you got a problem with how I dress, then like I'm willingly I accept the challenge of whatever you want to do about it. You know, to have a bad attitude and I think that was intriguing for the Dungeon family. I was a tough ass little kid that had money. I was making money, and you know, in that culture, that's always impressive. Somebody who kind of like is on the wrong side of the law but thriving. You know.
Yeah.
So I was that character as a kid.
Nice. And you were supplying.
Well, no, when I was a kid, the first thing I learned, you know, when I moved to Atlanta, I had enough hustle about me. Like my parents used to drop me off at the beach with cases of beer and I'd bury them in the sand. They showed me how to do this during spring break. And when kids come on the beach, I'd be like, I got beer for sale, I got beer for sale. And then if those cops came on four-wheelers, I'd have beer buried. And then it just moved into like, oh, you guys need some weed? I can go get weed. You know, I know where to get that. And then when I got to Atlanta, there was traps everywhere. I went to school with everybody. I knew their older brothers. So I knew where to get cocaine, crack, weed, anything. And I would hang out in little 5 Points with the punks on the weekends, and there'd always be like suburban people that would pull into this cul-de-sac, and they'd be like, you guys know where to get acid or whatever. And I'd be like, oh, I know where to get that. I know where to get that. Give me your money, you know? And then I started just having like clients. And then I also panhandled. Well, you know, I didn't need to. I would just ask, I would say, spare money, you got spare change? And then I'd be like, hey, it's past curfew. I need money to get on MARTA or for a taxi cab, or I'm diabetic. I just was always just scamming, bumming cigarettes from everybody and selling Lucy's. I was just a hustling little kid. Like, and then Atlanta was just like it was just like the easiest place. Like making money, I thought making money would always be easy. From like when I would move to Atlanta till I was probably like 25, I was just like, I thought that's just how life went. And then coming back to Florida, I was like, damn, what if I had stayed here? You know, and I started looking up people I grew up with and they're all dead and in jail. And I was like, I think the best thing that ever happened to me was me getting out of this place and then coming back to it.
Yeah. That's so cool. So you brought your street intelligence to Atlanta and you got it.
It wasn't street intelligence, it was more like swamp intelligence.
Okay, nice.
Because, you know, we used to live near all the gators and snakes and spiders and all sorts of shit. And I think that lack of fear for those things, that when I got to Atlanta, Wayne Williams, you ever know who Wayne Williams is?
No.
Wayne Williams is, this is a long story, but it's the history of Atlanta.
Yeah.
When I moved to Atlanta, and I visited Atlanta, this guy, Wayne Williams, had been arrested. He's the only black serial killer like ever or whatever. And which is strange in itself, and it leads to that he probably didn't even do it, but Atlanta was trying to become a city. It's a town that was becoming a city. They wanted the Olympics. All these black kids were getting missing and dying, and then the feds were investigating the Ku Klux Klan, and then they just needed a fall guy. Wayne Williams. So anyway, if you were living in Atlanta in 79, 80, 81, 82, the boogeyman was real. So everybody was very scared, especially black kids, you know? So I got there and was like, fuck a boogeyman, you know? Like, nah.
Yeah, I'll fight gators.
And then someone had been arrested. So I was like, okay, well, the boogeyman's gone, but the fear had remained, and I was fearless. So I think I kind of brought that back, at least in my little circle in my school, about being fearlessness. Oh, we can't go there because there's a fence. I'd be like, we jump over fences where I'm from, you know? We cut a hole through them. Like, there's no fences. There's no boundaries.
Yeah.
And that goes into graffiti.
Yeah. So tell me about when you started actually painting graffiti, with who, how you go about it, what was the part of your life? I studied
it. You know, the strange thing, and this is the truth. From 9 years old or 8 years old, really 9 years old, I just became, like, I wanted to do it. I started drawing it. I started taking paint and markers and just doing some weird version of it. And when I first met writers, I met guys from like the UCA crew, and like Chase, this dude who'd moved from LA, and he was a Rockwood Street gangbanger. And I met Jazz, he's from Ashby Street, and all these guys were from like, you know, like Sir Leon's from Bowen Homes. They were tough street guys. And I met them, they were all grown up. A guy named Sen One, he was probably 20 years old and I'm 9. And they were very tough on me. They were like, don't ever let us fucking catch you doing graffiti, and let me see your shit, that's it, that ain't it. You know, and I was like, oh my God, this is a tough sport.
Yeah.
And then but I still had a toughtness about me to where I was like, I'm gonna do it anyway, and I'm gonna earn their respect. And I understood that at a young age, and I eventually became part of their crew, and it's just never stopped. It's kind of ever evolving. The life I've been living now is the same life I've been living probably since, I would say, at least when I was like 14 years old. Meeting writers, this culture, the mentality of it, shaking some of the programming I've gotten from it is something at my older age I don't prescribe to anymore. I think it's fine if you're 15.
Yeah.
But as a 48-year-old man, I think that
you got evolved.
it's irresponsible to behave like that.
Yeah. is there like a bunch of like rules in graffiti that you're like
I think
supposed to not break, but
I don't
that
think
in itself is a box that
there's some
you're
universal rules which I don't prescribe to, which we don't got to get too into, but just even like I guess the consistency of a crew, you know, like a crew will kind of like share a style basis. When they paint together, it looks uniform kind of, you know.
Uh-huh.
You become part of a crew style, and breaking out of that a little bit was hard because it's just kind of like, it doesn't happen on purpose. Like we paint together so much, I might start using a little something you do over here, and everybody starts mixing and matching, and it
Yeah.
all becomes very cohesive, which is very cool.
Yeah, it's a good
But
way
then
to
when you're
grow.
kind of coming into your own as an artist, and you're wanting to stand out on your own and not be a shadow to anything level of style, then you got to break away from all that. And then I guess in graffiti, traditional graffiti, if you don't do an outline on your piece, it's like no longer graffiti, you know?
Okay.
Like, you know, you just do it this type of way. You know, you put 3Ds or drop shadows, but there's always got to be one or the other. You can't not have an outline or not have those things. It kind of loses, it's not traditional graffiti anymore.
Okay.
And I guess I was a part of traditional graffiti, and I still am. When I do
Yeah.
graffiti, I keep it very traditional. My graffiti style and my art style is kind of separated.
Yeah. So you've, you know, we're doing a big jump here, but you've moved from graffiti to what? Canvas art or street art? Like I don't want to
I'm
put
just
like
open.
labels on you.
I'm
but-
wide open.
Yeah.
I want to do everything. I've been playing with making sculptures and failing terribly and learning a lot from that. It's been like a heartbreaking experience in itself, trying to be a sculpturist. And actually, I talked to my father one day, and I don't talk to him often, but when I did, I told him that I was stressed out by trying to make a sculpture, and I showed him a picture of it, and he said, well, he goes, you got to learn how to make the doorknobs before you make the Taj Mahal. And I was like, oh, shit.
What was it, like metal?
No, I made this one big wood cutout piece. It was one solid piece of thick-ass wood, and I drew it all on there with pencil real lightly and drilled a million holes in it and got skinny jigsaw blades.
Yeah.
Spent like 900 hours on it, and then my friend Autumn asked me to watch her cat while she went out of town, and I said, no, I don't got time for that. She drops her cat off at my house. It starts running in circles, and it jumps off the sculpture and shattered it.
Oh, no.
And I'm not even kidding. I've been working on this thing for like a decade and a half.
Oh.
Just trying to make a prototype, and it shattered it into pieces, and I told Risky about it, and he was like, why would you even make that yourself? You should just have it made. And I was like, I didn't know that's how this could even work. I thought you had to make it yourself. He goes, nobody gives a fuck about how it was made.
Right.
Just get it made.
Well,
and I was like, oh, mind blown.
Well, yeah, but how do you feel about like, you know, like, oh, I'm making sculptures now, but actually I'm not making them. Somebody else is making them
I'm designing
for me.
sculptures, I guess, and I can live with that.
Sure, and I've
still
done it
make my
too.
own
You go to
sculptures.
Bali and you find master sculptors and you give them a picture of your art and they do something you could never do without like years
Or
of
a
training.
Chinese man with a machine.
Sure, perhaps too.
Yeah.
It's like I guess there's no rules in that way, but I think it's.
I would like to do it both ways. I would like to sit
do
there
it
and work on a
yourself.
sculpture and tinker with it every day for the next 20 years, but then also just have some stuff being produced. You know, I understand how to make a sculpture more than I could tell someone else how to make one. I don't know how to do that yet. And that's coming though.
Yeah, totally.
But the sculpture was so heartbreaking. I just was like, man, I lost it. And then when I bought my house, I started packing it up and I started trying to piece it back together, and pieces were standing on their own, turned this way. And it just meant I had a revelation of, oh, wow, this is even better, because I was just making something flat, and now I can just keep building. I can make this thing grow into whatever I want.
Right.
And that realization was like, I guess, the beauty of making a mistake. I ended up learning a way better lesson. So the heartbreak of that sculpture actually has given new thoughts.
All experiences are good experiences.
Yeah.
Do any of your graffiti peers give you a hard time because you branched off outside of illegal graffiti? Do you care? Does it matter?
I did care a lot. And yeah, that is something that happened. A lot of people didn't understand it. And I guess like, I don't know, you watch Style Wars, they kind of like painted this picture of like, oh, these guys sold out and became gallery artists. And they're like, why would I want to be dirty anymore and doing this? I like art, you know. I'm also a vandal, and I'm a writer, which some people don't even consider it art, even within the culture. Like, we're not artists, we're writers. I'm also that. But through writing, I was able to channel that I also am very creative, and I can go beyond that. I can do both. And at first, yeah, people were giving me a hard time. I think everybody had watched Style Wars too much. People were quoting it and stuff. Even be called an art fag and stuff, and I'd be like, people would ask me what, like, oh, you're a writer. I'm like, oh, I'm also an art fag, you know. And excuse me for the improper words, but that's the truth of the shaming that goes on within the culture. Not even within the culture. I don't want to put it on the culture. Within my own circles, in the culture.
Yeah.
And we all know each other, so busting balls, machismo comes into play. But now that I've gone as far as I've gone, people have, they've changed their attitude towards it. People have congratulated me. People have just straight up said, I didn't understand what the hell you thought you were doing, but now I get it. And you've also stayed true to where your roots of painting.
You're just being yourself once again.
Yeah, well, you know, a lot of times I tell people, you know, if I've sold out so much, I do more graffiti than I did when I was younger because I have access to paint and traveling. I get to go to places, and then I don't just go to my Airbnb and go to sleep after I have a show somewhere or something. I go out and paint the town. I hang with the locals. I eat the food. I mean, I stay in places extended amounts of times. I was supposed to be there 2 days. I'm there 2 months. You know, I never go anywhere for a couple of days. I go and I immerse myself into, you know,
the places,
communities, land, cultures. I want to learn.
Totally. Is there still like a big beef between street art and graffiti, or has that been kind of like,
you know, I've separated myself from everything so much. I imagine it's still there, you know. Sorry, I'm gonna let this truck pass. Diesel.
Yeah.
Yeah. You know, when you're younger and, you know, it becomes very normal to be like, it's just us kind of like trying to fight for the space of these walls. And then all of a sudden, all this mural stuff came on, which is evolution. And people started painting murals, and people were like, oh, damn, we had that wall for 20 years, so they came and thought they could take it, you know? And we feel very entitled as writers over the years. I think a lot of us, you know, starting at 9, 10, 11, 12 years old, I'm not shaming anybody for having the mentality, but me personally, I'm aware of it. I don't like it anymore. I didn't realize, I probably never liked it, but I didn't realize it till I got older. And I'm not shaming anybody for living the lifestyle and being a racker or being a pirate in life. That's just tight, man. Fuck the system.
Yeah.
But I've decided to buy a house and pay my taxes, and I don't want to live that life anymore. I lived it my whole life from when I was born up until, you know, 2009 is when I really gave up and was like, fuck all that. I'm gonna be an artist and I'm gonna live my true self. I came out the closet on that.
Right. Why stay in a box just because you've been like,
I
well,
liberated myself.
I'm in this box and forever I shall be this thing. It's like, well, I can be whatever the fuck I want to be at any point. It depends on
the one thing that's changed now, though, I think, compared to when I first started doing art, and maybe it's just because of how I've carried myself in both sports, but I don't have anybody talking no shame to me. I think people who did shame me have turned around and congratulated me, you know, and I'm coming full circle. Doing my show where I grew up, the way people are receiving me on, whether it be in the graffiti world or the general public, because it used to be the graffiti world loved me and the general public hated me. Then I won over the general public and some of the graffiti world didn't like me anymore, and I finally got the balance between both. And I don't know if a lot of people have done that. Maybe they have, but I can't speak for everybody, but I finally feel like I'm being accepted, and I could easily say I don't give a fuck what people think, but I do, and I want to be accepted, man, and I want to be respected by my peers and the rest of the world, the civilians or whatever you want to call them.
Yeah, it's a natural to want to be loved and accepted. At the end of the time, as long as we love and accept ourselves, we won the video game, and the rest is bells and whistles or cherries on top.
I learned that too, you know. I love myself, man, and I've always felt inadequate on some ends. I've always felt very confident in some parts of life, and then others I've always felt very inadequate, and that's something I was able to shed in the jungle, and being like, I'm okay, I'm fucking fine, I'm actually great.
Yeah.
I'm special.
No,
you know?
It's blessings.
Yeah.
It's beautiful.
And I'm not a scary monster, and I'm not whatever the hell anybody's ever, their perception of me that got into my head, I've been able to shed that stuff, and it's kind of like another awakening, you know, like I had a creative awakening and my brain turned on as a child, and then I morphed into some sort of bizarre character, and then I caught myself, and then I just shed it really quick.
Well, I've only met you since I think your Revolution or Evolution, where to me you're just like a sweetie.
Yeah.
But why would anybody paint you like a monster? I guess you had some darker
I was monster
years.
behavior. You know, we had a talk on the bike ride where when I got to Atlanta, you know, I grew up in a very tough environment where fighting was normal. My brother used to sick me on older people and stuff.
Sick you?
Yeah, it'd be like, that guy said mom was a prostitute. And I'd be like, oh, who, that guy? And I would just attack. And they would just, people wouldn't even say that my mom. They just didn't like somebody. They would make up something that would set me off. And I tapped into my
rage,
my burst, you know? And then I realized I had that. I realized I was also very small, but that I could scare everybody around me if I wanted. And I took that to Atlanta, and I got a lot of trophies and high fives. Being not black in a black community and getting high fives and being very accepted, beyond accepted. I started becoming family with people based off of my level of
Aggression.
Not even just aggression, but also my not being above the law, or besides not even caring about the law, not being scared of nothing. That all that stuff made me feel very accepted. And then I embraced it. And then I started crying every time I would do it. I would lose it, and then I would get high fives and love it, and then I would fall apart beyond that every time. And I'd always felt so fucked up. I mean, I would cry, I would get mad that I was crying about it.
What age did you start realizing that that was not the energy you wanted to hold?
I realized when I kept crying about it, like I would fall apart afterwards. I realized I was like, I didn't have these vocabulary, but I just knew I didn't feel healthy.
Yeah.
And then I also knew that if I didn't do these things that were making me feel bad, that I would lose my stance.
Yeah.
And then, so, you know, that just kind of, as a kid, you know, and then as you become an adult, it just becomes second nature to behave in these ways. And then it was a woman named Joy. You know Joy, the singer? She was in Lucy Pearl. She's a very famous singer, Erykah Badu's best friend. She was my Get from Goody Mob's wife. And I remember, you know, everybody laughing, and she would come in and be like, what's going on? And they'd be like, Dax just told us whatever he just did. She'd be like, that's not cute, and walk out. And I'd be like, and then one day she came out and she goes, let me tell you something. How old are you now? And I was like, I'm 22, 23. And she was like, it's real cute being a drug dealer and doing all the things you're doing. And she goes, well, when you turn 40, that shit ain't cute no more. Yeah. And she walked off, and that shit fucking was like, it's like the shit your mom was supposed to tell you, you know, like, or your grandma. And Joy was that, this woman was that person in my life. She shamed me for the shit that was being pumped up my ass, you know? So that was kind of like an awakening for me, was having a woman that I had more respect than any man I'd ever met, you know? And I didn't have a lot of respect for women. I'd been taught that too. You know, women are a little bit second class or whatever. And everybody's fucking second class except for us, you know? And I don't know, her feminine touch, man, she goddamn woke me up in a lot of ways. And then that was one of the things where I was like, I gotta make a change. Yeah. And then they were also pumping creativity around there, like privately going to hang out with the Dungeon family in the studio, people dressing the way they want to dress and not how they want us to dress. Yeah. And all this liberation, kind of hanging out with them, and them also, they had a harder time than me. I was a little wacky, so it made sense that I was creative and tapping into it. And I also stopped, I was tough enough to be like, yo, if you ever say anything about me pain, I'll fuck you up, you know? And people were scared enough to me not to make fun of me. But those guys accepted it, and they pushed it. They were always like, man, why don't you just be a painter? Yeah. And I'd be like, but is that even a real job? I seen my dad struggling with it, you know? I was like, fuck. And he always told me, whatever you do, don't ever be an artist, you know? And I was like, oh shit. So I embraced selling drugs, and selling drugs opened up a lot of time. A lot of people spend their time chasing girls, going to strip clubs, trying to have things and all this shit. I took all my money and time and I put it into travel and graffiti. And that was probably the best thing I did with my time and money.
It's beautiful.
I just did a lot of graffiti. I got to meet like-minded people that I've known 30, 40 years and shit.
Yeah, and you're like got to meet a lot of rappers in your career, other than the...
Yeah, because of Atlanta. You know, if you wanted to being creative, and being in Atlanta meant I was gonna hang out with guys who used to be nerds in high school and be in the drum line. You know, these guys became producers. And everybody's ticket out was music, especially for young black kids, especially kids from the projects. Ticket out was sports, music, drugs. So some of these kids, which were considered nerds, would play in the band, and they ended up getting enough skills to move on into the music world and you know, become these people who are very important.
You were friends with Outkast, I think?
Yeah, Outkast is part of the Dungeon family. Is Outkast, Goody Mob, but the hierarchy of it would be Organized Noise, which is Rico Wade, Ray Murray, which was a graffiti writer in Atlanta before me, and there's Sleepy Brown, which you hear singing the hooks on Outkast songs, like So Fresh and So Clean, all those soulful hooks. A lot of the beats are made by them, and he sang and wrote most of the hooks. He's like the invisible member of Outkast, or they call him the third member of Outkast.
Okay, nice.
These guys started the Dungeon family in Rico Wade's mom's basement. It was a dirt wall basement, and they were down there making music. And Outkast, for instance, went to Tri-City high schools down the street. They heard about some kids. Everybody was always trying to kind of meet these guys. They were older. Finally, Big Boy and Andre, they were called Two Shades Deep, they ended up meeting him at the Headland in DeLoe shopping plaza in East Point, and they freestyled for him. And he impressed them enough, they took him to meet Ray and Sleepy in the dungeon. Nice. And the Goody Mob was already down there making magic. And then there was Cool Breeze, and I can go on with everybody, and everybody was making magic, and they were hiding from the world and getting ready to unleash this creativity on everybody that was so strong that you couldn't shame us out of it no longer.
Very exciting times.
Very exciting
Yeah,
time.
you're seeing
it
culture
continues. That's the
develop.
one thing that's the same about Atlanta, though. That thriving, like, you hear kids rap. Like, kids will just, they'll just show you their shit or whatever. And I'm always like, even kids who show me they make videos now. And I'm like, man, how in the fuck are you making that on your phone?
Yeah.
Like, you're blowing my mind. Like, the creativity is rich. And, hanging out with the young kids, like, I hang out with a lot of young bloods, graffiti writers and kids in music. I hang out at the bars and stuff. And I soak up that energy. I think I've been soaking. Atlanta's probably got a lot to do with exactly why I am the way I am. Like, this excitement for creativity definitely was birthed for me in Atlanta.
That's beautiful.
Yeah, there's some sort of magic laying in there.
Do you still stay in touch with Andrew 3000?
Everybody's my good friends, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Because I love how somebody who was so like old school hip hop is now doing shamanic, experimental, totally medicine music. Like, when I heard it, it took me into that DMT realm.
I got an interesting story about that.
Yeah.
We can go back in time a little bit, but to go ahead in time, Andre's been playing the flute and making like medicine music, as you say. I was with Fia and Juan Carlos and doing these ceremonies with them, and we started learning about each other. We would hang out with them beyond ceremonies. We'd be like, hey, we're gonna go stay in Tulum or something. They'd be like, we're gonna roll with y'all. They would travel with us and like totally separate. So we became friends with them, the shamans. Yeah. And they're from Peru and stuff, and they got to know me, and then and Fia was just like, man, you're friends with these guys? And she was like, these are some of the most influential people in the world. Yeah. And she was like, you know them. Yeah. She was like, if you can pass on any of the tools that you've learned and stuff, like, please do, like, this is powerful. And then I never said nothing to them except Big Boy. I told him, and then Gip knew what I was doing, and then they told Andre, and then Andre called me and wanted to learn about it. Oh, wow. And so then he ended up doing ayahuasca with, I won't say all his business, but he ended up doing the ayahuasca.
With Juan Carlos?
Huh?
With Juan Carlos?
No,
with somebody else?
With somebody else that Erica had been doing it with. Yeah. And I don't know if I'm getting into their business, but whatever. Then he ended up playing the flute, and a lot of people were like, what is he doing? Yeah. And then other people get it. But what the most beautiful moment ever was at Piedmont Park, the huge jazz festival we have there. The whole city comes out for this thing, and especially because he was headlining it. Yeah. And then he started playing the flute. I could see everybody was baffled. Yeah. But then it started doing its work, and everybody chilled out and sat down. I laid on the ground. Yeah. And the speakers were vibrating this vibration through, and I just, like, when I tell you I look at your paintings, I just had this ability to just float off into other dimensions and space. But I just like soaked into the ground, and I left. And I came back, and then we left, and we went down the street, and we were like all hanging out at this office and on the Beltline, and he texted me. And I was like, oh wow. I was like, I was just at, I said it was like I said it reminded me of a ceremony. I said it was so strong and powerful because I just wanted to thank you for introducing me to the ayahuasca situation, because this all comes from that. Wow, I knew it. And this is facts. I know it sounds like an unbelievable story, but I have the text messages I can show you if you want.
No, that's so cool.
But this is fact. But no, it went back to Fia telling me that I was in a position to influence the most influential people in the world. That's beautiful, man. And then I didn't even try. You've added to culture, even if just as a connect. I'm sure you've added to culture just in what you do on your own, but even by connecting two opposite or apparently opposite worlds, like the world of hip hop and graffiti, and then the world of ayahuasca and shamanism, which I want to dig in deeper in a bit, but I want to stick to, like, Atlanta and your roots for now. All right. But like I think it's beautiful, and that's why I vibe with you, because like I'm also street culture, not graffiti like you. I think we all are. People our age. I think if you grew up in the 80s, 70s, 80s, like 90s. Even if you didn't grow up in the street culture had molded you in some way or fashion. Yeah, well, we're out in the streets. I was skateboarding. For me, skateboard art is street art too, or whatever box we want to label it, but we're out there, in the going cities. Back to skateboarding, the punk scene, a lot of that stuff molded me. I hung out in the punk scene. I hung out in the dope boy scene, in the hip hop scene. I was always a very chameleonish. I don't know. Like a bridge. I got along with everybody, and it also added to my hustle. A lot of black folks and white folks were very separate, and still are for the most part. It's a lot better these days, but when I got to Atlanta, it was very separate, and I took advantage of it. These people wouldn't talk to each other, and they wanted stuff that each other had. And I became the bridge between a lot of stuff. Nice. And then, I think this was the catalyst that impressed the Dungeon family enough that I didn't make music. I didn't add nothing to their program. I think I inspired them with my uniqueness and my boldness about my uniqueness. I have a huge inspiration on them in that form. And then from there, they wanted me to start being in their videos. Like I was in the Black Ice video when I was 17.
Okay.
You know Black Ice?
No.
Woke up and seen the sun sky high. You know, it's an old Goody Mob Outcast song.
Okay, nice.
And it was the first song that was like from the South that ended up on BET and MTV. And I'm in this video. And I'm trying to lay under the radar. And I didn't really want to be in the video because I knew I was doing so much stuff that I didn't need any attention. But Gip was like, please be in the video. And it changed my life in some ways good, some ways bad. But I had, all of a sudden, my face was familiar to everybody. They'd seen this video from these people from our side of the world, being the South or Atlanta or even anywhere in the South. Yeah. And I couldn't go anywhere with people being like, you're the white boy from the goddamn Black Ice video. And I'd be like, oh my God, I got drugs in my car. Oh my God. And I was like,
what year is this?
That was, I think we filmed the video in '97.
Okay, cool. I was just arriving to North America then, so I was just like, that's
well, look it up. You'll see me. I'm like a little kid in the video. Yeah. But my life, like Bubba Sparks said, I'm like the Forrest Gump of hip hop because I didn't ever want to make this music. I didn't really even care that they were making it. I liked what everybody was doing, and I liked my creative camaraderie, but I didn't have like a deep interest in what they were actually like doing. I was just around.
You're not into rap.
I wasn't like, can I please hang out? You know, they were like, come on tour with us. There's always a bunk for you on my bus. Roll with us. And I think, you know, I added a lot to the table for when it came time to travel because I had already traveled on my own. I knew people everywhere. If we needed a pound of weed in fucking Houston, Texas, I could get it. I had a network already, and they were just like, how in the fuck are you younger than everybody, but you know everybody everywhere? And I was like, Graffiti. I remember walking down the street and someone would be like, hey, you're Dax. And they'd be like, who the fuck are you, man? Like, we've never been to this place, none of us before. And someone recognized you. And I'd just be like, I don't know, man. Like, I just have this, I'm Forrest Gump. Yeah. I was just always around. I hung out so damn much that if something was gonna happen, more than likely I was gonna be around for it. Yeah. Just because I was hyper present on the streets and everywhere, whether it be a punk show, hanging out in the corner with crack dealers, hanging on playgrounds, going to clubs, sneaking into clubs. I was everywhere. You know, even there's a Magic City documentary that I'm in now. Okay. And I didn't, you know, you don't even realize that you had a part in any part of this culture. I heard they were making a Magic City documentary. Next thing I'm getting a phone call, and then they want my archives, and then they want to interview me, and then I'm just like, I don't look at myself as someone who even had any place in that place. But
not even a little bit? Like,
I hung out there for sure.
Did you have like a little bit of contribution
I didn't
to
realize
the
I contributed to any changes or anything until I saw, well, I'll let y'all see the documentary, but then I shamed myself a little bit. I was just kind of like, man, I'm so far from that person, but I guess I had made enough of an impact in these locations that when it comes time to talking about them or doing stories about them, someone will bring me up in it.
And there's also such a thing as somebody who holds space. Like, you don't have to be the guy in the spotlight who made the thing. You could be the guy who's like back there holding space for them, perhaps flowing good vibes. Too. And like, you know, holding a certain frequency, even on the invisible realm. We all add our vibration to the equation.
Well, definitely in the you know, in the street scene, the punk scene, and all that stuff. I've always I found a home there. I felt like all these tribes were my tribes, and I guess anybody who you know, didn't come up easy, people who come from struggle, we were like magnets towards each other. You know, I think there's just a mutual understanding with people who've been through certain things, especially at young ages, and or to meet people at a young age that are already going through things, and we gravitate towards each other. The punks are like that for sure. A lot of the punks are just misplaced kids, broken home kids, and they find family within that. Gangs are like that for a lot of people. We talked about gangs in Peru. You know, you find your tribe in these people and these things, you know, and you might learn later that maybe it wasn't the best thing for you, or maybe it was, but nevertheless, I think to, you know, not grow up alone. That's the thing. Even if you were in a gang or whatever,
we're looking for community.
I commend anybody who could find some people, man, it's easier to navigate life with a tribe.
Yeah, community of any kind, you know.
And you've seen some of these kids, you know, who never found their tribe, and I don't want to trigger anybody or anything, but, you know, there's a lot of high school shootings and stuff, and I think a lot of these kids, if I was able to just look in from the distance and see something that I think's in common with all of them, is that they were all very introverted. I imagine they all felt very inadequate. And then, you know, through the comfortability of playing video games or listening to music or whatever, or just pure frustration and disconnect, I think is kind of the poison that's fueling these things that didn't used to happen, and now they're common. And what's going on in this world? What is social media doing? But man, I think for whatever reason, man, if anybody can get anything out of any of this conversation, man, is just find a passion and find some people.
Hi, we take this little pause from our conversations for me to let you know that I got a brand new art book. This is my second art book, Shamanic Journey, that just came out with Last Gasp Publications. It's a 256-page book, full color, shiny, beautiful pages with full of my art, writing, stories, basically everything I've done in the last 13 years. And I worked really hard on this book. It took me months to lay out by myself, and obviously the art has been a labor of love of many years, and I've condensed it all in this beautiful book that now is available on positcreations.net. You can get a signed version, you can get an unsigned version for a little bit cheaper. And yeah, this won't run out of electricity. On this digital world where we gotta charge everything, or a solar flare could knock out the electricity of the world and you'd be like, whoa, where did all my Chris Dyer go? No, this runs on energy forever. You never gotta charge it, you never gotta water it. It'll always be there to give you new inspiration and art. And I've done this with a lot of love, you know, and I hope that you will get a copy for your own personal library. And reflect yourself in it and make your own book and story of your life. But here's mine, and I hope you will enjoy it. positcreations.net. Thank you.
Everybody, I'm sure if you could be open enough to be around people, you can find your people, but it takes you starting just to open up. And if you feel like you're an introvert, you're not. You've become that, but you can unbecome that.
Yeah, even if you just find other.
I'm a good example. I was one way and now I'm another way, man. I just one day was like, I don't want to be like that.
Yeah.
And I want to be a fucking social butterfly. I want everybody to want to hang out with me. And look at me now. I can hang out any damn where. I hang out with hippies. I hang out at festivals. I can still go to the streets. I can go to Art Basel. I can be in this backyard.
Yeah.
I can go to a brunch place, and there ain't no funny looks at me no more. Nobody's like, oh my God, what is he doing
You
here?
were a liberated human being that's just being itself in
Yeah.
the comfort without letting any judgment that's external get in the way of being.
And that's where I'm getting to. People don't feel comfortable, man. People are hurting. And and doing ayahuasca, I learned as I'm sitting right here, all that kind of shit, you can just move your chair right there and not sit here no more, and don't sit in your own shit. Step out of the feces, man. And just, I felt like my liberation was that easy. I felt like I was just in all this shit and I just like tiptoed out of it. And I was like, oh, I can just leave all that shit behind.
Yeah.
Like really, I could have did that so long ago. It took me 40 fucking years to figure out that it's my fault I'm sitting in shit, you know?
Yeah, totally. It's funny that like cultures like skateboarding and graffiti are like a rebellious expression of society, but then in itself it becomes one more box that it's not letting us being. Mm-hmm.
The punk scene, I remember when I didn't want to wear boots no more, especially because at school, you looked like a Nazi skinhead. People be like, you skinhead. Nazis were a big thing, so I was like, well, I'm not going to wear nothing that the Nazis wear. But then I remember going to the punk scene, and they were like, what are those shoes you're wearing? I was like, these are shell toes. And they were like, nah, man, you can't wear that. And I'd be like, isn't this whole thing about us being ourselves? And I was like, so I can't be part of this if I don't have a mohawk and a leather jacket and this uniform. And then I can't go to school with this on because then I'm a Nazi skinhead. And that's when I've had my moment where I was like, fuck, I don't want to wear none of this shit.
Yeah.
I don't care about the name of my shoes. I'm going to wear unique shit. I started going thrift shopping.
Yeah, you're not your shoes, you're not your clothes,
Yeah.
you're whatever the fuck you are.
I found a lot of comfort with clothes though. Going to thrift stores and finding my own unique style and just being myself, man, felt so good.
Yeah.
You know, and maybe that was, you know, my real self poking his head out at a younger age too.
Yeah, your unique creative expression.
I'm just glad I found liberation, and I'm glad that I don't have to be none of that stuff, and I don't care what people expect out of me. People miss the dirty doctor. When I was a dirty doctor, you know, and like just being a dirty man.
Why are you Dr. Dax?
I think it rhymed with my name because Andre and Big Boy used to call me the dirty doctor because I sold drugs and I had pills and I knew everything about drugs and what they did to you and how much you could and couldn't take, and they were just calling me the doctor. But then at the same time, Chase and SB from the network crew, they were calling me Dr. Dax. And that shit just stuck.
Uh-huh.
But then I had to start telling people I don't like the dirty name anymore, because dirty in Atlanta means you're like I got dirty money, I'm riding dirty,
Yeah.
dirty South. It's like, you know, I don't want to be called dirty.
Yeah, and now
I'm the clean doctor now.
Now you're a doctor that could provide positive medicine.
Yeah.
You know?
Well, I don't try to offer anything to anybody, but if anybody inquires, like me and Ryan had discussed that when Fia and them, even him, you know, he knew Dave Navarro and stuff. We ended up doing like ayahuasca at his house. And that we knew these people, but I told him, like, let's not force anything on anybody, because I remember asking them, should I do peyote? Should I do this? Should I do that? They go, if it's calling you, they're like, that's not our medicine. Everybody has their own medicine. And in that moment, I realized, like, medicine could be anything. It could be water or air.
Art.
It could be art, you know, it could be church. Maybe you need to go to church and get bit by a snake.
Yeah.
Maybe that's what you need.
Uh-huh.
That's not what I need. So I don't tell people to go to churches with snakes or to ayahuasca ceremonies. If someone feels so compelled and it's like something, I'll be like, I'll tell you about my experience and what it's done for me. But,
yeah.
You know, my uncles did acid in college, and I just went and visited one in the mental hospital the other day. I had to visit my uncle. He's been in the mental hospital since 1968.
I had a
They
uncle
both
like
ate
that
acid,
too.
and they had schizophrenia.
Yeah.
So I know that everybody, this is really good for everybody to know too. Everybody be thinking that they need to do ayahuasca, like that's gonna fix me. You might fucking go crazy on ayahuasca depending on who you are.
Or
if you
who's providing it and how much, and their expertise and how they go about it. Because there's a lot of like
medicine can be dangerous if done the wrong way.
Yeah, like there's like we were just in the jungle 2 weeks ago, and I was just coming outside of the jungle from doing ayahuasca with a shaman, and that lizard just slid down the ramp, and he's all peeling. That's so cute.
He's shedding his skin too.
Oh my God! Well, we just yesterday was New Year's, and now we're in the
Chinese New Year's.
Yeah,
yeah.
We're in the year of the snake, and the snake peels his skin off to reveal a new version of itself. So this year will all be about leaving behind the old and bringing.
I'm going through that right now.
Yeah, just like that lizard. That's why he showed up, to remind us of your transformation. But tell me a little bit about your transformation through ayahuasca. I was just recalling that I was in the jungle of Peru, and I came out after doing a couple ceremonies, and I met this dude, synchronistically a fan, in a restaurant, and he like was nervous about doing Aya because the only time he had done it before was in the living room with a DJ and shit.
Yeah,
and
there's a lot of strange ceremonies, you
like,
know. And like, once again, man, I don't know what's what and what's right. I'm the one to say nothing. I'll tell you, for me, I can't imagine doing it. I've done it I've been around and I've heard stories. I know the experience with a lot of people, and the experience that I have with Fia Juan Carlos, being from Peru and specifically the Shipibo, I feel like it's not their medicine, but they're the ones that kind of
they're carrying tradition that's
carrying
thousands of years old.
Yeah, and it's very apparent when I'm in the ceremony that there's no electricity here. This is the only time I think I've ever experienced the same experience that's thousands of years old, because if you do ayahuasca in someone's house and there's electrical things and stuff, I don't know, it's very hard to explain, but
it's a different vibe.
When you do this stuff in the jungle and you do it with the people who've been taught thousands of years of tradition, for me, it was like an exorcism. I did 40, maybe 100 years worth of generational curse type, whatever you want to call it, stuff, work happened to me. And I've done ayahuasca 9 times, and I was able, I'm not gonna say I've fixed myself, I've gotten the tools to sit and navigate better through all this bullshit that I am. I'm going sane. I'm learning how to be functional, and I'm trying to learn how to be second nature functional, to where all my reactions are the right reactions, and I don't have to sit there and go, oh, hold on, what would Fia and Juan Carlos tell me to do or something, you know what I'm saying? Because I used to call them every day and be like, I don't know how to deal with anything now.
How do I become good?
Yeah,
what does that mean?
What do I do in traffic when people are yelling at me? What do I do when someone wants to knuckle up? Like, they were like, we don't have the answers. They taught me that the answers are lying in. I have a tool bag of spiritual tools now. And I guess the most important ones is just being, they say to quench your thirst from the original source, which is to just breathe deeply, drink water, you know, keep it simple. And I'm learning now through all my lessons, I had to learn respect. I've had to learn forgiveness. I've had to learn a lot of things. I've had to let go of a lot of things, but right now I'm really embracing simple. I like to just wake up. I like yoga now, and I like making art, and I like seeing my mom and my stepdad, and everything else is pretty cool, but that's what I know right now, that's my priority. And that's what serves me, and that's what's making me comfortable. I'm going back to Atlanta, so I'm gearing up to go back to the city life.
You're putting up your spiritual armor. I would say all these things are very not usual in street culture and graffiti and all this rebellious, tough guy
We've been brainwashed by our own culture.
Yeah.
Well, I don't know about you, but me, you know, I go back to NWA and I remember everybody burning their tapes and being like, man, fuck all these people. They don't understand. And like, but I definitely remember everybody fist fighting, and I remember guns being around, but after NWA came out, everybody had guns.
Yeah.
Gangbanging spread across the country. And I was personally poisoned by some of it, you know, even punk music. I was already angry. I'd already been shown violence to be a solution. And then the music pushed it. The music was speaking to my life and what I was seeing. It was the soundtrack of our lives. And, you know, it fed me for a long time into that. And it's just, I don't know, it's so poisonous. You know, I guess after being hurt enough in the streets, being in trouble, having so many setbacks, people not being my friends anymore anyway, people dying, junkie behavior, being taken advantage of by people who I grew up with, but then they turned into shitty adults. Just, I've gone through all the lessons, man. I'm just like this humongous onion, and I still got some layers left.
Yeah.
You know, but my work is just, it's up to me to do my work now. Ayahuasca showed me enough, and I got a lot of work to do.
What did ayahuasca teach you? I'm sure many things, but what's something that comes to mind?
It showed me, it humiliated me and beat me up. It stripped off like barnacles of demon type, I don't know. There's no words to describe it.
You had passengers and she removed a couple passengers.
Yeah, and that's interesting you say it in that way. I don't like to get too into it because it's so hard for people to believe, but I definitely had like some stuff pulled out of me, some stuff stuck to me.
I think we should talk about that openly without the embarrassment, because it's a reality.
Yeah, well, you know, for me, man, like, you ever seen the movie Ghost, and there's like those shadows that were flying on him when he died? That must have been somebody who experienced that wrote that movie, because it was just like that. And they were scaring the shit out of me. And everybody in the room could see it. They were all scared too. And then that freaked me out, because all of a sudden I'm like, why am I the only one with demons swirling around me and shit? And I was just like, ah! And like, have mercy. Ah! And like, I melted down. They had to pull me out of the ceremony, and like, they were like, you need to come back. You know, you need more help.
No, you needed a full-on exorcism. And I used to like hold space for ayahuasca ceremonies in Peru. I would teach a workshop, and an art workshop, and I'd have some students that would come in really calm and chill, and they had some demons that would show up, and like the shamans would have to bring them out, not tie them down, but hold them down while they're exorcism the beast out, and I'd be really worried.
People don't talk about this side of ayahuasca sometimes, I don't think, and I don't think a lot of people even experience this when they do ayahuasca, but I did. And some of the stuff, like the demons, they were cowards. They were just barking ass dogs. Once I realized that they were just barking ass dogs and they didn't have no bite, I'm not scared of that shit.
Yeah.
They're not tough. They don't actually bite. They just look scary and they feel scary. And then there's other stuff that's deeper though, and there's like what I consider barnacles and things that were stuck to my DNA. I think some stuff that came through my moms through me.
Yeah.
And this goes into just how I deal with women and shit in general, and maybe my lack of respect for myself, and men and women, but even more so women, because I didn't trust women. My mom, I found out she didn't trust her mom. And my mom, this respect was never there. Yeah. From mother to mother. And then it came into me. And then there's that, and then there's stuff like hanging in, even though I never, like, okay, it's hard to explain, but I used to like to just go smoke crack and go hang in an alley and maybe share some crack with some crackheads who never smoked like that. I'd be like, let's get $1,000 worth and let's smoke until we can't smoke anymore. Let's get sick of it.
Yeah.
Not be chasing another hit and another hit. Let's just take 1,000 hits until we're done with that.
Yeah.
I've done that. And I used to really love hanging out in abandoned buildings. And then I used to like going to a party with Big Boy and them, like a Grammy party or some shit, and being in LA and leaving a Grammy party and hanging out with gangbangers and shit. And they'll beat the shit out of somebody and just all this chaos. And I feel like it created these fucked up barnacles in my DNA, and it showed me how there was like fungus and moss and things growing on me.
Yeah, wow.
And then to strip it off, it's like any healing. Like if I cut you in the arm, it don't end there. It's gonna be like a month.
No, yeah.
You gotta take care of that wound and stuff, and it's gonna hurt. It ain't nothing you can do to make it heal quick. And it's the same thing with ripping this stuff off you. There's nothing, no COVID, no flu. This shit feels terrible, this gross stuff. Getting torn off of you spiritually in these ceremonies. And man, you get really sick. I mean, I feel like I definitely died and woke up. I remember waking up gasping for air and Fia being like, oh man, what's wrong with you? And throwing up and blacking out and fucking,
wow.
you know, just, and then it's like, oh, now you got some more over here. And you go through this fucked up experience all over again.
No, it's
and then when it's all over, you're like, no, hold on, there's more.
No, it's like a process. I
had a lot of shit,
no,
man.
I can resonate with that because my first bunch of ayahuasca ceremonies, they're like rinsing me from my traumas and my fucking boxes and my armors and my insecurities. They're just really trying, and the entity, because I would feel like it's an entity, is just like holding in because it's planted in these roots, and it's like, I'm not leaving this motherfucker, and I is trying to go.
Yeah.
And meanwhile, I'm in the middle, struggling and really sick and really wanting to vomiting, and it's not happening. But then fucking 3 ceremonies later, finally ayahuasca will electrocute me and the entity inside, and the projectile vomit will come out, and it's like, fuck, it got something out of me. For the love of God, I feel so blessed. But it took a while before. Now my ayahuasca ceremonies are a lot smoother, and I will vomit, but like I'm always chilling inside, just observing it all. You know, even if my body's afraid or anxious.
I think it's very interesting that these experiences they're the same for a reason. This isn't just hallucinating. I can say that 1000% to myself, that there's too many experiences. Your experience being exactly the same as mine, having things pulled out of me by the shamans through my feet, or I don't even know how they do it. They do this magic, and they fight the war with you. They guide you in this war.
They can vomit for you?
Yeah, that happened. I'll tell you, you know, they blow smoke on you in a particular way to open your chakras at the beginning of the ceremony, and then when they close them, I had already came out of, they dragged me out. I had such an intense experience, and I came back in and it was over, but everybody else was still in it. So I was just, and then it was time for the ceremony to end, and I was feeling like I was crying, kind of like tears of joy. I felt like, I can only explain when people get born again and catch the spirit in church.
Yeah.
You know, I had that like hallelujah experience, and I was like, man, I needed that. Wow. And I couldn't wait to talk about it, you know, and I was being quiet. And then they went around closing everybody's chakras, and I was like, oh yeah, close my chakra. And right before they were getting to me, one of those things swooped around the room and went into my head, and I started sweating to death and got sick. And I was like, oh, and I was like, don't close my chakra. And then they were like, what the fuck is it now? And I was like, something flew in my head. And they're like, everybody leave. It's like, it wasn't like they didn't believe me, or they were just like, okay, everybody leave. Yeah. And Joe was like, hold on, what's going on? What? Because I'm his brother, you know? He was like, he's like, something's going on with him. And they were like, just leave. And then they did this whole other thing on me, man, blowing smoke on me. And Juan Carlos did something on the bottom of my foot. He got down there, and he didn't put his mouth on my foot, but he was like blowing smoke. And then he started like, and all of a sudden, the sweat and cold, and like, it's really like a terrible flu. It just left me, and he collapsed and started throwing up and sweating to death. And he took, I don't know what that was. I don't know how to put these things into words, but that experience was powerful. And how is it that you know about this experience? I just told you for the first time. It is real.
Yeah.
That shit happened.
No. So I've asked myself, what is these things too? So I've had different conversations with different people. And yes, sometimes there is this incarnate souls, not even necessarily ghosts, but you know, that you might be in dirty places, dirty energetical places, and you're open because you're doing all these drugs, so your aura is more permeable, and something can slip in. I've heard that story.
Yeah.
And actually,
I think a lot of things slipped in with me.
And so I learned about entities when I used to be a meditator, and I would go to Oregon, and we see this guru from India who was enlightened, and the first time I looked into his eyes, I fucking cried for half an hour. Super trippy. So people would bring demon possession people to him. So I got to talk to like the husband of one of them once, and he's like, one day something got into my wife and she'd be talking tongues, and this is my last hope, to bring him to this guru to like get it out of her because he's taking over. It's super trippy. So that's the first time I learned that shit.
This is going to say that it sounds like, you know, like once again, man, I think I urge everybody to find their medicine, no matter what it is, man. If you go to church, man, keep going to church. If you go to AA, I don't know, man, you confide in your mom.
Whatever brings up your frequency into
ain't got nobody,
the
call
vibe
me.
of love.
Call me up, man. I'll come fucking give you a hug.
Yeah.
Whatever you need, man. Tough love. Love, you know, whatever.
The frequency of love.
I'm
Like
getting to a place
if we
where
all vibrate to that.
I'm getting to a place where I've been able to be more helpful. You know, even like I got to go to LA in a couple days, and there's a part of me that just doesn't want to go, but then there's a part of me that knows there's a reason that I'm going there, and I'm looking for strength right now. I can't say I have it, but I'm sure when the moment comes, I'll rise to the occasion. But I'm in a place where I can be helpful now, and I think I've just like I was talking shit about NWA. I think I'm NWA. I've a lot of writers, at least from the South, I can say that you know, graffiti writers were like dudes with afros and hippie white guys that listened to Black Sabbath back in the 70s, and then it turned into like you know, b-boys, and then it turned into like baggy clothes rackers, and it's just morphed into being more and more specific. Like to be a graffiti writer now would probably to be a white kid that steals everything and sells it on eBay, and then, you know, I won't get into everything, but there's a lifestyle behind it that's kind of just common. The way everybody dresses, everybody wears these kind of like outdoor clothes and stuff. It's just all stuff that kind of goes to me against being unique, but I'm glad that everybody's found something in it. But I have been a bad influence. I know I have, and I know that a lot of people started doing bullshit because I made it look cool. Steele from MSK says I can make anything look cool. He's like, you can take any situation, even a bad situation in your life, and you can make everybody laugh about it, you know? And I was like, well, I've just learned how to not take none of this shit serious. And I would just like to spread some good while I'm still here, because I know that I've harmed some people with my, I didn't realize how influential I could be. And now that I realize the power of my influence, I want to use it for good, or I want to just leave everybody alone. I'll go stay in the Everglades the rest of my life and leave everybody alone and not woo anybody in any direction. But I want everybody to think for themselves, man. A lot of people ask me, oh man, should I do this? Asking me about this, kind of pertaining to maybe it can work for them. I don't like to woo anybody in any way, but I do like to woo people to find whatever it is that you're looking for. I can tell you what worked for me, but what works for me ain't necessarily for everybody.
Sure, but still you can
There's
be
something for everybody.
I think you got an important role as an example and role model, as somebody or one of the few people like Joe Rhyme, who we keep on mentioning, that mixes graffiti from a point of view of somebody who's actually been cultured for decades and being part of it in the negatives and positives, but now you're working with the sacred medicine of ayahuasca, DMT, and beyond, to know who we are on the other side of reality and bring back that spiritual point of view into the beautiful culture of graffiti, which is a spiritual expression with its, barnacles and rough edges, but still, it doesn't have to be positive or negative. Oh, the lizard fell down again. Ah, I love it. It's like the culture of graffiti will shed its skin and become a brand new whatever it is.
Years later, a lot of people didn't understand what me and Ryan were doing. I think people were really confused by it. They weren't even sure if we were being serious about it, because we were, especially Joe, we're jokesters. Joe's a prankster, so people never knew what to take, whether we're serious or joking. But I think now that all these years later, I think people have seen these better changes in us. I think some people even know, like me, I'm looking healthier than I did when I was in my 20s. People who knew me, if you look at pictures of me, I had money but looked like shit. And I don't have as much money as I had when I was in my 20s, but I look healthier. I feel healthier. And you can tell that if I didn't make a change, I don't think I'd be here right now.
It's beautiful.
Yeah.
I love to see it, and that's why I resonate with you and Joe. Like I love graffiti, but I'm not deep in that culture. I don't know most of the information.
Well, it's all relatable. Like graffiti now, especially because I'm older, but like midlife crisis is something that, since I'm so in the graffiti culture, I notice midlife crisis going on more than ever. And it's a sad thing that we don't talk about. And midlife crisis is really built off of age shaming and people being taught to be scared of being old, that being old's bad, that you age out. You're too old to be doing that now. People say stuff like that, and it's just about not prescribing into it. And it's just like anything, you give it power when you believe in that. And I believe that I am staying healthier and younger than ever by not prescribing to ageism, not going through a midlife crisis. I'm not going to get through a midlife crisis. I just ain't going to have one.
Yeah.
And it sneaks up on me sometimes, not because of culture, but just, sometimes I wake up and I'm like, oh, my neck hurts because I washed the dishes last night.
Yeah.
But I'm like, that's fine. Just
Don't tell yourself that now you're old for it.
Yeah, or just learn how to be.
You're youthing.
Learn how
you're
to
not
be
aging.
to where I have wear and tear on my body. It's like I have a 1968 Chevelle. It don't start up on the first crank. I gotta, and once it starts, it might conk out.
Yep.
And then I start it again. I'm like that now. So, but that car's still sick. It's still sexy, beautiful. It's worth money. It's
And your soul is eternal, and you're beautiful,
I'm like
and
an
you're
old car.
radiating for your existence. And
yeah, and it's something we should talk about too. You know, I'm 48 years old. I'm gonna be 50 soon, and a lot of my friends, that's driving them crazy. Turning 40 drove a lot of my friends crazy, and I want to warn anybody heading towards their 40s or 50s that that's okay, man. You can motherfucking adapt to anything. I'm learning how to be 50 at 48,
Oh, yeah.
and I like to tell people that because I did that when I turned 39. I was in jail, and I was like, shit, I'm gonna fucking, I'm about to change how everything goes. I'm about to be 40. Joy's voice was in my head. That shit ain't cute when you're 40. And here I am turning 40 doing the same shit. And I was like, ooh, if Joy knew what I was doing right now, she would think I'm ugly, you know? And just like, that's the shit I needed. And, you know, you can change your motherfucking life around like that, you know?
Oh, I love it, man.
And,
See, this is very inspiring. I think,
yeah.
like, you know, like your biggest contribution to culture, at least from my perspective, as somebody who's just getting to know you
Well, people
more.
think I have some sort of privilege that I can be like this, but I earned this, man. I put in my work. I drank the ayahuasca as my medicine. I learned from it. I kept what I learned from it, and I practiced what I learned from it. A lot of people just keep going back to do ayahuasca because they think ayahuasca is guiding their whole life, but ayahuasca can teach you just like any teacher. But man, what you learn in school and how you apply it. You can learn how to do math, but if you go out and don't do the math, you ain't doing shit with that, you know? And
yeah, you gotta
got
integrate
tools,
it
man.
and become the lessons that you're given.
You know, if you want to overdose and keep doing overdose on, for me, I do lots of physical therapy, yoga, and meditation, but meditation for me is just simple. It's just sitting outside. It's just laying down. It's just breathing. It's just
being present.
I can meditate in my car. If we stop talking right now, I can just start right now. I'm able to drift off, and there's a roadmap that DMT and ayahuasca. For me to sit down and meditate, I used to be like, I can't do this, you know. And then all of a sudden, I can just go that way now.
Yeah.
Just like I can walk that way, I can drift this way.
Because you've created certain pathways in your brain.
I submitted to this way.
Yeah, that can catch that, like, okay, I'm here, my presence of being is here, and I'm just like gonna rest and observe and not let the chatter of the mind or the emotions get in the way.
Chatter's dangerous. Like, I mean, even my show, I had to get away from what any gallerist told me, everybody telling me like, man, you know what you should be doing, or you should try this. Man, I'm just like I'm influential, I'm also easily influenced. And a lot of stuff got in my head, and I wanted to clear all that out. I wanted to just really make art that I wanted, and the chatter's so dangerous, man, because you have a path, and I believe that every day, you know, your path can drift different ways, but you gotta listen deep in here, deep in back there, and then there's this, your path shows itself. Oh, I should be going this way. And when you come back to here, your gut feeling kind of stays with you. And I'd be like, hold on, no, I'm not supposed to be doing that. And I got to tell myself, the universe has a plan for me, or some people say God's plan. You got to stay on God's plan, or whatever. There's a path and a plan for you, and you can't let everybody tell you. Sometimes people have advice, but you should take it all with a grain of salt and apply it to what your path is. But don't listen to nobody and what you should be doing. It's just not healthy, man. It's not. And I need a lot of time every day. Really, I can't even be around anywhere. I need to just be like sitting in my mom's backyard the rest of my life. And just, that's my path, I guess, making art.
Yeah, you don't have to do anything. You can just be.
You can just be.
You can just be whatever you could be sitting here right now. Hey, I am being right now. There's nothing I have to do. There's nothing I have to be.
I've been fucking working on my tan for 2 months in my mom's backyard. I just sit back there. I fall asleep. I wake up. I meditate. I stretch. I drink water. I paint. Sometimes I was telling her that I paint for 30 minutes and take a 2-hour break.
Yeah.
And sometimes I'm like, I'll take the rest of the day off, but I sometimes I go not so crazy, and then other days I'm just like, I'm autopilot, and I'll paint 12 hours, and I don't even know who did that.
Yeah, I can resonate with what you're saying, because we just came back from Peru, where we're hanging out at my parents', and I'm just sitting in the backyard, taking in the rays of the sun, drinking all the beers I want, jumping in the pool, like totally allowing myself to be lazy, because I'm hyper productive and I always got to do everything, and I always got the next mortgage, so it's not like I can do that forever. But you sometimes just gotta fucking do nothing and just be
nothing's everything sometimes, ain't it?
Right.
And even talking about like drinking, like He reminded me like when I started, I went to the punk scene. I found the punk scene and was like, oh man, there's people you can be how you want. But then it became the uniform and the politics and, you know, you're a communist if you like dead Kennedys and you're a Nazi if you like Sham 69 or just some shit. And but then like being on a spiritual path or like or on a journey or putting in this work, then people expect you to be like, ah. I'll be like, hey, every once in a while I might slip up and snort a bump of cocaine in a dirty bathroom and play. This is the truth. I'll play fucking what I call snort roulette. I don't even know what I'm snorting, and it might fucking kill me, but I do it anyway. But then, you know, I'm on a path, and I know that shit's wrong. And then I do my work sometimes where I'm like, hey, what were you doing, man? Don't play with your life like that. And I don't need no one to tell me that was wrong. I know.
But I like that, Dax, because you're not rigid. You're not like, now I'm in this new box
I
where
fuck
I'm not
up,
allowed
man.
to do anything.
I
You're like,
veer off my
"You
path
know
every
what?
10 minutes.
I'll play one day too. Like that.
I'm
that's-
so programmed, man, that like I could
Like you can have a beer and smoke.
I
Like
could easily just turn into like a street drug dealer in 2 seconds if I allow myself. Sometimes life's hard. Sometimes I need more money. And I'm like, man, fuck it. I'll go sell drugs. I'll kick someone's ass. And I'm like, hold on, dude. What are you talking about right now? But you just snap back like that. You've been putting in all this work, and then it's so easy to relapse. And me, I mean, for real. Like a lot of times I'm on point. I do so much work, but like if I can drift off, I can just fall out of it so quick too. It took so much work to get into it, and I can just snap. I don't know. It's so second nature, man. It's such muscle memory with this shit.
It's a whole lifetime that you're trying to break the rigidity that you created in a certain
Ayahuasca
personality
don't
that
fix
doesn't.
shit, dude. It shows you how to fix it.
But she might break some bones. It's
There
like,
ain't
oh,
nothing
this
easy.
shit is too calcificated. Let's break a couple bones, and now you got to rebuild it again.
There ain't nothing easy about unlearning and relearning and then applying and
It's not an easy
sometimes
pill
it's not
solution.
fun too.
where
I'll be
you-
like, I know I'm supposed to be just go lay on the ground over there and do Wim Hof breathing, but I feel like whooping this person's ass. You know, but now I know, go do that Wim Hof breathing, get over that shit. And then you feel dumb. You'll be like, man, what the hell just got over me? And I just gotta forgive myself and be like, hey man, it's been generations of that. Your mama taught you that,
Dude,
you know?
You're doing some great work.
Well, now
so
I'm doing
thank
work
you.
with my mom. And my mom, you know, my mom's a tough ass woman, man. And it's been really nice to work with her. And like, I hate using the same words as everybody, but breaking the generational curse for me was beyond breaking it here. I wanted to really help my mom and help my stepdad. And they're having the same problem too, where they resort back to old behaviors. My mom's 70. She's just been this way her whole life. And, you know, her work's very difficult for her, but she does it. My mom does qigong and stuff. This is some shit they would never ever do.
Yeah, no, that's unusual. But
Yeah.
I don't know your
So
mom.
if you can help your parents, man, forgive them. You fucking change that shit, man. Like
right.
anything, man. Trust me, I've been through it all with my mama, and I could easily just hate her ass, and I did hate her, and I don't hate her now. I love my mom more than anything. I cried when I left yesterday. It's hard to leave. I'll cry right now talking about my mama.
Paulina can resonate with that because
Everybody has a mommy or a daddy issue or both, you know. We fucking get over that shit, man. Fix it.
No, that's why I spend so much time Peru.
It's the worst problem to have.
My parents drive me crazy. Like nobody can drive me crazy. Like my mom, my dad drove us to Lima the other day, and I was just like, I don't want to hang out with these people right now. But then I'm like, but it's your parents, and you love them, and you just had a lovely few weeks. And why does this moment have to ruin the love that you have? Get over it, you know, transcend it, and go back to the love. And we all did that in the end. Which
I know,
is nice,
I know too that one day they won't be around.
Right, you gotta appreciate
shit,
them.
God forbid, maybe I won't be around before them. Someone's gonna go, and
but we'll meet up.
and I'm cool with that whole thought. But my whole thing is, I feel like, damn man, I didn't see my mom her whole 30s. I don't know who that person was. My mom never saw me in my 20s. So, and then when we reunited, you know, I had so much resentment, and my mom felt that shit. My mom's a tough woman, but I would see her feeling sad without saying nothing to her, and I didn't even see her looking scared. I'm sure she was like, man, my little boy is a big scary man now, and I'm aggressive. And then sometimes I'm like, no, fuck that, I'm out of here, and I'll run. I'm like, I ain't dealing with this or my feelings or nothing. I'll just go to Miami and do cocaine and graffiti and be famous and just whatever the bullshit. And fuck that, man. You gotta go put that work in, man. You gotta go cry it out with mom. You gotta argue it out, whatever you gotta do.
That's the real tough guy
That's the real
stuff,
shit.
man.
Yeah, that's what I'm talking about. Go fucking deal with your mama, man. And my mom's tough, man. So, you know, she'll fucking piss you off. She'll say some shit that ain't even cool. Make you want to run.
Right.
But I dealt with my mama, and my mama's dealt with me. And even on this trip, we butted heads and shit. But man, like man, the tools that I've shown her, man, when we, it was the first time we both really applied this shit. And I was like, let's just go on a walk, Mom. Stop it, let's go on a walk.
Yeah.
Mom, come do yoga with me. I do beginner's yoga. And, you know, just sharing all this stuff. My mom doing DMT with my mom.
Oh, you did DMT with your mom?
Me and Joe did. Well, I did DMT with my mom, and then my stepdad wanted in. He didn't want in, and I had my mom come to Atlanta, and they were in a bad place. I won't get too into that, but they were in a bad place. They've been together 37, 8 years, whatever. I brought my mom to Atlanta, and she looked like she was 100 years old to me. And I swear, I did DMT with her twice. It was a whole long story, man. It took like a month before it even got to that point of doing DMT with her. But once it did, my mom had realized that all the shit she'd been taught was bullshit. I didn't even have to tell her much. The DMT showed her all that fucked up shit.
Wow.
And then we were able to start the real work then. But I had to get my mom on my level, man.
Yeah.
And then even, it's been a lot, man.
Open up the veil for 2 seconds
I
and you come back and be like, what the fuck?
I put in more work
there's
on-
a bigger reality outside of this reality?
I put more work, 2018 through 2020, I put more work in myself and my mama than I did my career or anything. And I couldn't continue on. My career didn't even mean nothing to me no more. I wasn't enjoying shit because I wasn't happy. This mommy issue I had was hindering me.
Man, this is such a beautiful story.
Yeah, man.
It's
If
so
you can't have no
cool.
mommy issues. Not at fucking 50 years old. I ain't gonna be no mommy issue man.
Yeah, if you can talk it out, you know, there's still a
I
lag.
insisted on fixing this shit with my mom. I wasn't gonna not. There was no way. I just became determined. Just as like I was determined to be somebody in the right graffiti world. Now I want to be somebody in this contemporary world, and I'm working my way at it. I had to stop it all, and I had to do that first because I couldn't carry on. There was too many grown-up, stressful problems for me to be in my creative mind. I was drifting far away from being creative, and I was just recycling. I wasn't making any progress. And
Well, I commend you and I congratulate you for the hard work you've done. I know
fuck
that's
yeah.
not easy.
Well, you know,
but you feel better in the end.
I'd be going through a midlife crisis right now, and I probably would have been like, "Ooh, I can't be on camera. I'm fat. I'm bald. I'm what? You know, just fuck." People always, you know, you ask me if I wanted to wear sunglasses. Like, no, look at my fucking eyes, man. Like, it's like tree trunks. You know what I'm saying? You know, like tree trunks got rings. When people got eyes that look like this, man, it's because I've just been living. There's life right there. So if I'm fat, bald, and got puffy eyes, it's because I done lived it up, man. You know what I'm saying?
I think you're beautiful, man.
If you really live in life, you're gonna have battle wounds, man. If you're really living. If you're too pretty, you ain't done nothing. If your hands are soft, you ain't did no work. I don't want all that, man. I want rough hands. I want to be lived. I live my life like when you get a rental car. You know, not like your own car. I mean, you know, you're doing donuts.
Yeah.
Shit, you know what I'm saying?
I love it. I love it.
I'm a rental car.
I super resonate with that. That's why I still skate into my 40s.
Yeah,
and
man, bust your fucking knee, man. Fuck it.
Yeah, no, they're already fucked up. I don't know why I get something that will like make it worse, but fuck, I don't know.
What's crazy is the lizard's really enjoying sliding down. He keeps going up and down.
Yeah, and they live in the
He's shedding
tube
his
part.
skin that way. He slides down and his skin falls off.
Right.
It's really cool, man.
No, it's so cool to see. And he lives in the tube part of the ramp.
Oh.
That's his shelter. They have like a whole like long mansion there.
Before the show's over, though, I just want to talk about this whole experience that we're discussing. Started in 2018, and me and Joe had known each other for years. Joe Rhyme.
You're really good friends with him, right?
Yeah, well, I've known him forever, but I was scared of Joe, not because Joe's tougher than me or anything, but Joe is mental, and Joe is, and he doesn't mind me talking about this. We talk about this openly, but Joe's like a dirty prankster, and Joe's I don't know, he could be a sick fuck if he goes in the wrong direction, but I think he had realized that he was that. And he was trying to understand why people, or me for instance, he was like, do you not want to be my friend? Let me go back. I needed some fucking help. I knew I had reached maybe I was going through my midlife crisis, but I felt like I was having a heart attack. I couldn't even handle nothing. Pressure, talking to my ex-girlfriend, everything hurt me. Ouch. And like I fell on the floor one day and was having a panic attack. I thought I was having a fucking stroke. And I had everything that I had dreamed of going on. I got my new place in the woods. I got the shiny Chevy car. I got my work car. Everything's going right. I got so much work, I don't even know how it's humanly possible to do it all. And I was so miserable. And I was like, man, what is it going to take for you to be happy?
Yeah.
And then Beggar asked me to drive.
When you just love yourself for whatever you are, like what's that maximum achievement in life that will be like, okay, now I'm good enough?
Well, man, I was miserable and I had it going on. And I jumped in the car with Beggar. He asked me if I wanted to go cross country with him. And I said, fuck it. I don't have time. I can't do that. And then I switched my mind the next day. I said, I'm going to go on the tour and I'm going to fucking fuck everything. I'm going to figure out what's going on with me, why I'm not happy too. And I ran into Rhyme. I'm supposed to go to EDM, huge festival in in
Orlando?
Vegas,
Okay, Vegas.
with all MSKs and Seventh Letter. Everybody in the world wants to be at this thing, and I get there and I don't want to be
At
there.
an EDM festival?
Yeah, I'm not. It's like the biggest EDM festival. What's that dude? Pasquale does
Yeah,
it.
yeah,
The big,
Pascal.
I don't know what it's
Troche,
call. I'm not a
yeah.
festival guy, but it's some big ass EDM
But I
festival in
didn't know
Vegas.
graffiti dudes wanted to go to EDM festival.
Well, I think through Seventh Letter and Pascal and all them LA guys that all
Super
know each other
cool.
from the streets.
Yeah.
Pascal does something, and even gangbangers want to go to that rave.
Okay.
If Pascal, I don't know that
Yeah.
guy, but that guy does stuff, and everybody in LA and in the
He's
graffiti
the same
world.
guy I think who does Electric Forest, I think.
He might. He's
Possible.
one of the big guys in it. And anyway, yeah. So people who don't go to festivals go to this festival, and I didn't want to be there. And I said, Trav from MSK said, you know, we can stay at his house when we got to LA. But I said, hey, can we just go there now? I don't want to be in Vegas. I had some gangbangers jump out on me in the bushes, and it really threw me off. And then I got thrown off twice, and I said, that's it. I don't want to be here. And I was feeling like I just felt aggressive. Like even the gangbangers, which I usually typically try to veer away from, I felt like I just wanted to go fuck them up. I don't like people asking me where I'm from. It just rubbed me wrong, and I knew I had a bad attitude. And I said, man, Beggar, can we please get out of here? I feel like I'm gonna get hurt in Vegas. He said, yeah, let's just go. We'll go to Trav's house, and Rhyme had missed his plane. And then Rhyme had asked me what was going on, what I was doing out there, and I told him I was going through things, and I'm just trying to figure some stuff out. And then I'm feeling a lot better, but I got some stuff to figure out. And he said, well, you should do DMT, and I'm gonna be doing DMT today. And he missed his plane.
Oh my God, I love how Rhymes become the DMT doctor.
It leads into you in a weird way, though, this whole story. So anyway, Rhyme was like, man, we should just go, let's go spiritually all city, you know? And I was like, what does that mean? He was like, let's just go do everything until we figure out what helps us. So we started going to like his aunt and getting tarot cards. We started his mediums. We started getting our aura pictures taken. We started floating in tanks and fuck. I mean, we did everything in that we could ever. We just would figure out spiritual stuff. And you know, he'd met Fio and Juan Carlos. So I went to France. And then, you know, after doing DMT, that kind of was like my getting my feet wet for ayahuasca, I guess. And it made me understand, take it serious, be interested. I started craving this help, and then help presented itself in the form of Fio and Juan Carlos.
Which I think it's awesome that Fia and Juan Carlos are the connectors, because I knew Fia from ceremonies in Peru.
Yeah.
And Juan Carlos, he's a visionary artist. I know him
Yeah.
from the visionary art scene and the hippie festival. And then all of a sudden, he's a shaman or provider
Yeah.
to you and Rhyme. I was like, what the fuck synchronicity coincidence is this?
And I'm telling you, man, I stay in touch with them. Like, it's so cool that I met them through this. I mean, I could hit Fio right now and tell her I need someone to talk to, and she will stop what she's doing and listen to me and tell me some shit that's real. She's
so
the
cool.
realest person I know, by the way.
She's from Florida too.
Yeah, and upstate New York.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, so anyway, she's just been another powerful woman in my life. And I love and respect her right there with my mama. She's up there, right there. And yeah, I'm glad to have met her. But, you know, going back to just that whole thing, man, I felt like, getting in that car with Beggar, running into Rhyme, ending up with Fio and Juan Carlos in Paris, then ending up in the jungle. This whole journey was like, I wasn't like, hey, let us know when the ceremony is, or hey, what do we got to do? It's just like, it just happened. It was almost like it couldn't have not happened. You know what I'm saying? Like, I felt like the medicine, I cried out for help, and this medicine found me, and I got pulled into it. And damn, man, it was like the best thing ever. I mean, I really got all this help I needed.
I love that.
And I don't know if anything else could have helped me personally. I don't know if I've gone to church. I go to gospel churches because gospel, like this goes back to you too. I ended up at the Electric Forest Festival, and this was a whole new world. I don't go to festivals, but this festival in particular we went to because it was more psychedelic. And I ate mushrooms, which I don't normally do. I drink mushroom tea, and I'm fucking falling into this mushroom thing. And I ran into a painting you did, and I didn't know at the time, but it wasn't even done. You just started, but to me it was done. I was like, I just like fell down on the grass and was like, just leave me here. And I stared at your painting like this, and I left. I like went into the painting and was gone, and everybody kept like coming up. I'd be like, huh? And they'd be like, you all right, man? I was like, yeah. Leave me alone. And like I'd stare back at the painting.
Oh my goodness.
And then the next day, I fucking wasn't on mushrooms, and you'd worked on it, but you weren't there. So I kept seeing it like getting added onto, and it was just another moment where I was like, man, what in the hell is this art, man? And I was like, it reminded me more of DMT, but since I had done ayahuasca too, and then I was on mushrooms, man, it was like another experience. The art was powerful, it still is. I'm looking at it right now, so try not to fall into it, but it's strangely hypnotizing your art, and I really wanted to get to know. I wanted to figure out who it was. To be sitting here right now is bizarre because it was just one of those moments where I was like, I want to know who the hell made that and what the hell their deal is. It was like graffiti again when I didn't understand it. Your art's like that where I'm like, what is this? How did he figure that out? Is something showing him this and he's showing us? What is this?
Well,
What
thank
is
you so
this?
much for appreciating it. What an honor that my
Yeah.
art would speak about the other dimension to you. And
It was perfect timing for me to see this art.
yeah, and as a person doing graffiti and street culture and mixing with the medicine, well, I also am that. So you saw it in my art. You recognize it, like, this guy's,
Yeah.
you know,
It comes
mixing
through
these two
medicine, you
worlds.
think? This art you do?
Yes, but the medicine has been living in me before
Yeah.
I did medicine. Like when I first did ayahuasca, she told me, like, we've been working all your life.
This is on the same level as like how the Shipibo have those patterns that they sew and stuff.
Yeah.
And like how you see that when you're on ayahuasca, it's not like it's just in it is it's like I don't know, it's ancient technology maybe, but it's just I don't know how the stuff I try to talk about I can't talk about
Dude,
because
I
words
can
don't
never figure it out.
There's not human words that we've learned in a vocabulary to describe these things, but your art, it's that communication.
I'm
It's
trying
the
to
words
figure it
that
out.
don't exist.
And I'm trying to figure it out, and like I look at that and be like, I've never seen that in that place. Like, but that's
it's-
what my avatar expresses. Like, and there is an echo to that, even though you didn't specifically see that there. But you'd be like, oh, I recognize the vibration or frequency.
My art completely changed
Yeah.
when I did ayahuasca. I went on autopilot more. I wasn't being so intentional with what I'm painting. I just start painting.
Yeah.
And what comes out now, when I look at it, I'm like, is this directly influenced by ayahuasca and DMT?
Looks like code to me.
Yeah, and it's almost like it just reprogrammed me, and now I make my art like that.
Yeah.
And I don't understand it either. I'm trying to figure a lot of things out, and my art is one of them. But in the meantime, I know how to make it.
Yeah. Like
I don't understand it, but I know how to make it.
I don't understand what that place is when you go deep into the DMT/ayahuasca chacruna world. And when I come out, I'm like, how do I express this? And I feel like I fail every time. Whatever I do is a small cartoon of something untouchable. But at the same time, I do try to like paint it with the intention of like, I'm creating a portal that will bring the vibration from that
It's
dimension in.
It's definitely that. Because I don't even need to do psychedelics, and it's hard for me. This thing's distracting me from the.
Sorry.
No, it's so powerful. I hope other people like. It's so good to sit in front of a big one. I tell you, these big ones like right now, they're
That's
so
how
powerful.
I feel when I go to Cosm and we're in the Grand Salon and Alex Gray's talking, and behind him is his big fucking
You can't even pay attention to him.
God net painting, and I'm like falling into the paint, into their dimension, just
Yeah.
because it has such an echo with that place, you know?
Alex Gray, of course, the best. But like, as far as getting that hypnotization and stuff, your work fucks with me the most. You, like I said, Michael Reeder, the two number 1 and 2 artists.
Thank
the
you.
art
What-
is just
what an honor.
His place is that place where you find comfort in death, and your place is that portal that sucks you in, like when you first blast off into DMT and you're like, oh my god, and there's like people waving and laughing at you and like shh, and all that stuff's happening really quick. That's your art.
But you know what, man? I don't see entities on the other side. Everybody
This
talks
stuff-
about entities, but
I
I
get
paint
visited.
entities, but I don't see any. Like last week when I was in the jungle, I was like, where is everybody? Like I see places and fractals and tunnels and wormholes, but where's the people? But I feel them all. It's like a whole group consciousness, which is the people itself, but they're not fractalized like we are.
Yeah.
If that makes sense.
Perhaps we'll be able to understand this more with a little more time. We'll reconvene this conversation in like a year, 2, 3, whatever, 5, and we'll see what we figured out because
Let's keep on trading notes.
I've just hit the tip of the iceberg. You know, a lot of people who haven't tapped into this of like, you did ayahuasca 9 times, you're like a shaman now and stuff, man. Can you be my shaman? Like people just don't get it. I'm like,
Yeah.
don't say that.
Yeah.
I'm not a shaman. I'm merely someone deeply seeking help.
Yeah.
And shamans have helped me, but I am not any of that. Yeah, I'm in a better place. But man, trust me, I'm not perfect. If you see me freak out and resort to old behavior, you know, I'll deal with that, but don't expect anything of me, man.
Yeah,
I'm doing
no.
my best, man. Some days I wake up and yeah, I am fucking guru. And then other days I wake up, I'm an asshole. You know, and I'm here to tell everybody ahead of time, don't have no expectations of me, man. If you knew me a long time ago, don't have that expectation of me. And if you know me now, don't hold me to it. I don't want it. I don't want the responsibility. I just want to be me, man. And if I'm an asshole, or if I'm crying, or if I'm laughing, I'm very emotional, and I think that's what it is to be human. If you don't have all this stuff going on, I don't know, maybe you're an android. I don't fucking know, man, but I don't understand people who don't have emotions and don't understand people who have emotions. You get shamed for getting mad or sad or what's wrong with you, and if you're depressed, you hide it, you know, and you shame yourself and you just don't talk about it. It's just like, this stuff's stupid, man, and you know, it makes, and like I get mad at my mom for just like losing understanding, and I'm like, Mom, I thought we learned this together, you know, and I'm like, oh, hold on, I'm doing the same thing to her.
Right.
So I'm learning to just be more accepting of other people, man, and their problems, man. Like we talk about people who are road raging, some girls freaking out and yelling at me and flicking me off in her car, and I'm just like, I would throw change at her probably 10 years ago, but now I'm gonna be like, now I didn't even know what to do. I was just like, oh, you poor soul. I was like, and she was like, fuck you, man. And I was like, oh, and I rolled my window up and was like, oh, and I felt like crying for her.
Oh,
like,
man.
I used to take other people's stuff.
Because she's suffering.
I started purging for her. I was just like, you poor soul. Like, I know I didn't do nothing to you. Something's really going bad in your actual life. And you're just, man, I was there for the moment where it all came out, man. So I'm not mad at her. I feel bad for her.
Yeah.
And
compassion.
maybe I should ask her to give her a hug. I don't know what to do. I'm learning, man. I don't know what to do with these people, man. Everybody needs fucking help, man. There's no doubt about it, man. The world's in a bad place. My friends are in bad places. People who did all the right things are in bad places. No one knows what to do no more. Everybody's lost.
But a lot of people are getting healed too.
I'm fucking healing, man, and I'm fucking like, I just spent 2 months sitting at my mama's house and I'm back to reality now. This is almost like leaving ayahuasca and going back to the city from the jungle, and you're just like, holy shit, I don't even know what to do with all this no more.
Yeah.
So for right now, I just ain't doing it. That's the only thing. Like, I'll be back, I'll have a solution to all this. I'm trying to figure out how to be in this world with all this, with all these difficult energies.
Yeah, yeah.
I don't comprehend it all, man, and it's not that I don't comprehend it all. I relate to it. I just don't know how to help people, and I don't think I'm the person to help right now. I'm just trying to inspire, lead by example.
We're not responsible for others. We're only responsible for the human we live inside.
Yeah.
And you try your best and you forgive yourself on the days you don't do good. The path is long and there's always more work to do. You never reach perfection. And the rabbit hole of that other dimension, what's happening there, that's a multi-life quest of even having a grain of understanding.
I run from everything. Whenever I don't know what to do, I run. Instead of like sitting there being like, maybe I should punch this person in the face. Maybe I should suck his dick. I don't know. What should I do? I don't know how can I fix this? I just run. I don't do nothing now. I just run because I don't know what to do. And instead of doing the wrong thing, I don't do nothing. And then you can get shamed for that too. People are like, you're a fucking runner, man. You just run from your problems. Like, you're damn right.
It's
better than fucking doing the wrong thing. I don't know what the right thing to do. I run. And it's okay to run, I think. Go run to your ass home and go.
I think in a way it's like surrendering and the path of least resistance, where you just, okay, that person insulted me, I accept it, I surrender, I'm moving on. It's not running, it's like, I just want to be in peace. Can I just move over there and be at peace and not have somebody yell at me?
You can say it in another way. You can say you're separating yourself from a situation. And and maybe it's not running, but I'm separating myself. But, you know, people will call you a coward, and people will say that you are running and stuff.
Who cares?
Well, it's another thing that I'm learning, you know?
Like,
I don't.
It doesn't matter.
My reality's been flipped upside down a couple times, so I'm over here trying to figure out what the hell all this is.
The point of view of ignorant people should not dictate how we then look at the world and ourselves, especially when we live inside ourselves, and we just got to be like, I'm cool with whatever I am and whatever I'm doing, and that's
I'd rather do yoga than argue with anybody. And every time you try to argue with me, I'll probably, more than likely, when you see me disappear, I probably ran home to go do Wim Hof YouTube videos and fucking Cassandra. Shout out to Cassandra and Adrian Yoga with.
Oh yeah, no, Adrian.
They're my teachers. I don't know them personally. I
do the videos.
I subscribe.
Yeah, no, it's good. I remember doing yoga with Adrian too. It's cool.
I'm still a beginner, man. I've been doing yoga for I'm telling you, man, since 2018. Yeah. And I dabbled with it before that, but I really got into it, and I do it every day, and I still am a beginner.
Nice,
it's okay though.
Dude,
I can't get beyond the beginners videos. Maybe I've done so much damage to myself that beginners is all I'll ever be, but hey, man,
it's not a competition.
I think yoga's been keeping me, my mental, even mental keel or something they call it?
Yeah.
I have an even mental keel sometimes.
Balance
sometimes,
out.
Every once in a while when I find it, it's because I did the right things.
You gotta move energy, and also like yoga's a good meditation where you gotta be like present in like whatever the fuck movement you're doing.
It's easy to fucking get lost in that too. Once I turn that video on and we sit down, I got my earphones in, and she's like, "Good, thank you for joining me," or something, you know? And I'm like, yeah. And then we do the om at the end, and I have my headphones on, and it's me and her like,
So cool.
and it starts fading together.
Yeah.
Man, that's a special thing.
That's
I wish
awesome,
everybody
dude.
can feel how nice that is. You can. Yoga with Adrian, yoga with Cassandra.
Yeah. Well, Dax, thank you so much for sharing all those points of views
Thanks for
about the
having me.
medicine. I love that. This is the reason why I made this show, is for conversations like this. You know,
I was
like,
laying on the ground in Michigan, fucking melting into the ground, looking at your art, wishing I could meet you, and here I am.
we're manifesting.
Shit's real,
You know,
man.
it's magic. Magic
It's
is
magic.
real. You know,
It
and,
is,
and
man.
also birds of a feather flock
Yeah.
together. Like
Oh
a
yeah,
shoe.
we have a Birds of a Feather show going on in Torrance, California on February
Who's in it?
1st. It's Risky, Rhyme, Saber, Shock,
Cheek.
Cheek, and Vane. We're all in this show. It's the young bucks, the oldest bucks, the in-betweens, all ages show. It's gonna be sick. We all made all that work out at Risky Studio, and then my new show, which I think is gonna be called Full Circle, is May 3rd at ABV, and I made it all in the Everglades with my mama.
Ah, that's awesome. Tell me a little bit before we end. I still want to pull a Fred a little bit more on like, you know, you just joined MSK. Is that like a
I've been down with MSK for a long time, and we won't get all into stuff, but like me and Revoke used to have beef back in the day, and we became friends, but there was that little thing where people tiptoed around having me in MSK because they weren't sure how he'd feel, and then I think one day he was like, "How the fuck's Dax not in MSK no more?" And everybody was also like, "Yeah, I was saying the same thing," and Risky thought I was in MSK. I'm in other crews like D30 and OTR, and we're very all tightly affiliated. There's a lot of people in a lot of crews that are all really cool.
Yeah.
And sometimes, I don't like the word poaching, but we crews poach, like, I mean, we need that guy in our
Where's
crew.
MSK from? What's their
MSK
vibe?
came from Los Angeles, and it was started by Eclipse and some other guys, older guys from AWR, and it was kind of like how biker gangs have prospect crews. Like there'll be a prospect, you get one patch, you're a prospect, and you earn your patches, and you become a full member. MSK was like the first patch.
Okay.
And then you had to earn your way in MSK up to AWR, but everybody was so fucking gung-ho, that next generation being like Revoke and Saber and like GK and these guys, they went so gung-ho in MSK to be in AWR that MSK kind of just became more of a household name.
Uh-huh.
And but AWR is still like the elder crew, and the world might be more familiar with MSK, but like when you're in that realm, like AWR is still kind of like the goal.
Nice.
And you know, it's just, I guess it's kind of like when someone's in the military and you get these little badges, you know?
Yeah.
You end up in crews and you get in this other crew. And,
Right, that's so cool.
You know,
I don't know it like that, so it's great to
yeah, and it's
learn
like
that from
it's
you.
a healthier option to gangbanging.
Yeah, you're making art, you're being
Yeah,
creative.
we're street, we're brotherhood, we're camaraderie, but we're creative.
You just had
And
a
we put all
tailgate.
this angst and energy and rebellion into our art and not into territorials and stuff like that. We don't own anything, and we know that, but you know, we also we don't follow the rules, and we don't sit in invisible cages
Yeah, totally. I loved going to that tailgate in during Miami Art Basel.
and meeting all the different characters.
Yeah, there was
And you
like
see some motherfuckers are scary, and then some motherfuckers ain't scary. You know.
there was some interesting character. Like I
Yeah.
was standing in front of a chair, kind of like just like hanging out, and this big guy came like, "Hey, you gotta move because this lady's sitting there," and I was like, "Oh shit!"
Yeah,
I
you know,
didn't notice.
we attract everything, you know, like it's graffiti's such an interesting thing like that because, you know, me and Ryman discussed this when we first started our journey of like, why are we so dysfunctional and how come everybody we know is dysfunctional? And then Ryman had the kind of like realization, like, I guess that any kid that's like, fuck baseball and fuck college, I'm gonna do graffiti. What's going on anyway? Like you chose something that at the time there was no money to ever be made in it. That you already know that's out the picture, so that's not an intention. Why are we doing this? Why did we become graffiti writers? Not even just graffiti writers, but dedicate all of ourselves to this thing. So there's kind of a dysfunction in it in the first place. It's turned into something beautiful, but when you were a graffiti writer, I noticed a lot of my following that comes from graffiti will be people who are fucking broken, from broken homes, and you know, you can communicate with them. When you finally meet them, you'll be like, holy shit, I didn't realize you were like the fucking Candyman or something, you know? Like,
Yeah, like
Jesus.
there's a lot of wounds in that culture.
Yeah, so some of our fans could be some really scary people, man.
yeah.
And then some of our friends are scary. And once again, I won't name people, but we've just been spreading our love knowledge, man. And It's been helping a lot of people. Some people have done ayahuasca. Some people just kind of were like, oh, it's okay to do graffiti and be functional and have good moral compass. And I just say, hey, man, you know, we've been brainwashed. Stop it. You know you're fucking brainwashed. If you're already at the point where you're like, what is this you guys are doing? And like, what does everybody think about what you guys are doing? And we just have to be like, man, I can't worry about that's my problem in the first place, is worrying about what they thought about me and adjusting to that. That's a bad place to be.
Yeah. It's it starts with yourself, and you know.
No, I mean, I'm trying to figure it out. I just spent 2 months. I feel really good today. I'm praying for myself right now to just bottle this up where I'm at right now. My schedule, my work ethic, my health. I want to carry it to Atlanta, and I failed many times. Atlanta's a difficult place to navigate beyond my own house. My house is like I can stay zen in there, but I got to venture out, and I'm still learning how to be in this world, man. In that world, Atlanta being a crazy ass place.
There's an interesting thing that comes together when you want to be like an open-hearted spiritual person that goes around me like, hey, I love you, and I'm open. I'm not putting up my armors. I'm not hiding. Here I am. But also with enough of a guard and armor that you're not also like vulnerable in these urban environments sometimes.
It's been one of the trickiest things for me, man.
Yeah, it's like you want to be open, but at the same time, still you got to have this like pyramid, invisible, you know, force field where negativity doesn't enter you.
I'm wondering if I shouldn't even be there no more, because I don't want to go back. I have no urge to go back. I've been gone 3 months or something almost. And I don't want to go back, and I don't want to figure out how to be there anymore. I'm kind of getting sick of it, to be honest with you.
If it doesn't resonate anymore, it doesn't.
I'm a tough son of a gun. I'll figure it out. But right now, that's what's going on through my head, and that's the honest truth. I'm scared to go home.
Well, not scared.
I'm scared. I'll be honest. I have scared.
Really?
I've been kind of having a hard time going to sleep. On the road trip here, I cried about leaving my mama, and then I was like, oh, you're heading north, and this will be a nice stop. And then I was like, well, enjoy your stop, because you got to go fucking learn how to be there right now. Enjoy this.
You got this, dude. You're super tough.
I got it.
The real way of tough.
I just don't want to.
Tough.
I want to go sit in my mom's backyard. Not even in my mom's backyard. I just want to be in Florida, man. I want to sit next to these type of trees.
Yeah, well, you're welcome here at any point.
These trees are nicer than our trees.
No, dude, I'm stoked living down here for the last couple of years. It's been so
Should
blessed,
we climb
and
your
a big
tree?
contrast with Montreal, where right now it's gonna be frozen for another 2-3 months.
And some people thrive in that, man. Like Wim Hof, he goes to the cold. He don't let the cold go to him.
Yeah, but the darkness gets you sometimes. The dark and the cold, I'm happy with the sun and the warmth.
We're just built. I think me and you and a lot of people, we're built for this. Like I'm sweating right now, and I love it, man. I like sweating, because the opposite of sweating would be to like just be full of piss or something, you know, like.
So, you know, we had a beautiful conversation, and you said so many words of wisdom that, you know, I almost feel bad asking you, do you have some final words of wisdom for the people watching this show?
Final words of wisdom. I mean, I guess I'll just take from my own self in this moment right now, man. Face fear, you know, like I'm scared to go home, and I'm admitting I'm scared. I do have fear, but I also have the tools to be fearless. Be fearless, man. Fear will only hold you back. Like I won't even go home. Maybe there's something great waiting for me there, and I'm over here just fighting going back. And I'm sure when I get back, it'll be just fine. But I'm overcoming fear. And, you know, maybe when this interview's over, I will climb that tree, and I'll go up there and take some deep breaths. Maybe I'll chug this water. I don't know. Maybe I won't do nothing. I don't know. But I'm going to go home. I'm going to face the fear. I'm going to overcome it, you know? And that's all I can say, man. Don't be scared of shit, man. And life is short. You know, I'm 50 almost now. I was 20 the other day. And it's like that. And the one thing I don't regret is living my life. I'm glad that I've done all sorts of fucked up shit, but I lived my life, and when it's over, I'll be straight. I can leave because I've done it all.
Yeah.
Do it all.
Beautiful,
That's my advice to you. Do it all.
Oh, man.
Whatever that is to you.
You rule. I love
Do
your
you.
words. And just to like, you know, to what you were saying, I think things will be great in Atlanta, even if they're bad, because you got the perspective of like, whatever's happening is meant to be. And if this is shady, you're like, well, this doesn't resonate with me anymore, and you leave. But and if it's good, it's like, okay, it still resonates
Well, if I was
with me,
to talk to Fia, she would say it's just what you need. Whatever happens to me, it's just what you need.
Perfect, yeah. So, you
It's
know.
never too much, is it?
You're going to do great. And thank you so much.
All right, now I'm ready to go home.
Oh.
See you later,
Hell
St. Petersburg.
Yeah. Let's fucking go. And thank you guys for
Oh, yeah.
watching another
That one,
episode of
that one,
Chris
that one.
Dyer's Creative Friends. Please press like and comment and
Yeah.
share this, you know.
Yeah, follow me, man.
Yeah, follow Dr. Dax.
Or don't.
On Instagram or
Follow
or,
me, but don't
you know,
listen to me.
or unfollow us both, whatever.
Yeah.
It's all good either
Block
way.
me.
I love you, and we'll see you next time. Blessings.
Love.
Yo.
That was dope, man.
Hell
Fun
yeah.
ass podcast.
Next episode, my own human father, Teddy Dyer.
So what happened? Like how's the physics of this? You're
It
flying.
sounds like he evil Knieveled.
Yeah,
off
you
the
just
top of a mountain.
Yeah,
launched up this
yeah.
hill, mountain,
Yeah,
whatever.
and I was in the air and he was turning just in the air. So I say the next fella going to go on the floor with the bike in top.
Oh,
So I pushed the bike.
so you pushed the bike away so it wouldn't fucking fall on you, and you fell.
Yeah, I fell with both. I've tried to go with both, but it's irregular, the floor.
Yeah, you're just flying in the air.
Yeah, so I fall with 1 foot, but I put 1 foot and then they broke my femur, they go out. And
So
my
your
knee
leg just,
fall in pieces, all the leg.
the whole leg exploded.
Yeah, the open, the bones went out.
So please make sure to subscribe, like, comment, and share. Big thanks, and see you next episode. Peace.